This episode of Phone Booth Fighting, Frank, is brought to you by our friends at Earth's Brew. Plant-based nirvana. Relaxation fusing the best of all worlds. Health, taste, efficacy, and experience. And right now, due to the overwhelming response from Phone Booth Fighting listeners to the Earth's Brew brand, our friends over there, Jonathan and Joe, are running a special that will basically get you a free 10-pack of Earth's Brew. This is exclusively for Phone Booth Fighting listeners. Frank, tell them about how that works.
Yes, they're actually Earth's Brew's 10-packs to all listeners in the United States and Canada for the cost of shipping only for the entire month of October. That's 99 cents for us here in the U.S. and just $3.50 for the Canadians.
We're already hearing from a bunch of Phone Booth Fighting listeners who have taken advantage of this offer, and the latest here is David Ellis on Twitter. He tweeted to us, Frank, hey, Phone Booth Fighting, got my Earth's Brew Saturday. Thanks, guys, for the hookup. This is very relaxing. And there's a, I don't know, it's like an action figure holding his packet of Earth's Brew. I think is what that is. Yep. Do you know what character that? Do you know
Halo.
what that is, Brian? Oh, it's Halo. That's what it is. Yeah, the Halo video game.
I was trying to think of actually Halo's name. What's his name?
Yeah, the cool badass one. I've forgotten now.
The character you're playing the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, he's a little less. He's that badass is a little less tense now because obviously he's enjoying a packet of Earth's Brew. So thanks, David, for sending us that testimonial. And you can be the next to experience it. You go to earthsbrew.com. You enter that promo code PhoneBooth99, and even if you are already a customer of Earth's Brew, you still qualify for your free 10-pack. So just for the cost of shipping, they will send you a free 10-pack. earthsbrew.com, promo code PhoneBooth99. This episode of Phone Booth Fighting, Frank, is also brought to you by Low T Nation. Frank, speaking of overwhelming response, and I know
Master Chief John.
I say this every week. We hear from so many of our Phone Booth Fighting listeners who are reaching out to Low T Nation. Going to lowtnation.com, giving them a ring, Brandon, Dr. Weeks over there, and checking out to see if they're candidates for the low T treatment. And I guess a lot of times you don't realize you are until you talk to them.
That's true. A lot of people just assume that natural degradation of your health and your well-being is just, I'm getting older. And I think that we're starting to see that there's so many athletes now that are able to compete into their, longer careers. And guys think, well, it's just that guy. It's like, well, no, it's just that because of modern medicine, because of, health and nutrition, people now can have a better understanding of where they're at. And that's what Brendan and Jason really specialize in, is for men out there making sure that your mind and your body is operating on all cylinders, and by doing so, it means your hormones are where they should be. And so they're great guys. You can call them up. They can explain all the symptoms of what's going on. And if you think that you're a candidate, they can set you up for the proper blood tests and work, and talk to your general practitioner along the way to make sure that education is the key. And once it's established, if it is necessary for you to be a part of their program, the best part of it is that the medicine's sent directly to your house, so you can stay as consistent as possible.
Here's how it works. You go to lowtnation.com. There's a phone number. Give them a call. They are going to hook you up with a lab in your area. They're based in Atlanta. That part doesn't matter because they can take care of you anywhere in the United States. And you'll go to that lab. There's some simple blood work done, and that's the only out-of-house trip you have to make. From that point forward, Low T Nation is shipping the product to your doorstep. You can't get any more convenient than that. And when you call them up, Brandon is likely to answer the phone himself. Tell them you are a Phone Booth Fighting listener, because they're all Phone Booth Fighting listeners just like yourself over there at Low T Nation. The consultation over the phone, absolutely free. They take it from there, and it couldn't be easier. lowtnation.com. Let them know that Frank and I sent you. All right, Frank, let's get this episode of Phone Booth Fighting started. We are back in the bunker. Bryan Lacey is in the bunker with us, your broadcasting partner over there at ACB. Good to see you, Bryan. How are you, man?
It's good to be in the bunker. I've been staying in Frank's house for 2 days now, and I've surreptitiously been going around the actual Mere mansion.
Yeah.
I've not been able to find this. Then Travis opens this little door to this world of pleasure. And there's also, I've got to say, because I've listened to the podcast, always wondered I'm big fans of you two, obviously.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
But I've been keen to meet Travis.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you like Travis.
It's Travis. I want to know
Yeah.
about diving.
The minute he
hanging
brought
out
in
with
Cal, we
Donald
were like,
Cerrone.
who's this guy that everybody seems to be friends with?
Exactly. That's the dude. So yeah.
He's a real man's man. Did you half expect him to have a knife in his teeth when you met him?
I think we are like yin and yang, because he's a man's man, and he might have just seen me go into the bathroom to use a hairdryer and moisturize before we went on camera. Guys.
Coming on set, you got to, right? Yeah, you got to be camera ready. Bryan is also the co-host of the One Punch podcast with former UFC fighter Brad Pickett, which I am a subscriber to, and I know we share a lot of listeners. If you haven't checked it out yet, you definitely need to. Just find it right there on iTunes, where you find us. Hey, speaking of podcasts, before we dive into all this with Bryan, Frank has a T-shirt on his lap there. And this is the latest creation from Phone Booth Fighting Merchandise Enterprises, available at phoneboothfighting.com right there in the shop. It is the Phone Booth Fighting Ouija board design shirt, just in time for Halloween. I'm excited about that. In a way,
It looks good, man. I like the design.
In a way, this may become my favorite shirt that we've done. I like the other ones that we've done too, but there's just something very cool about this.
This will be easier to wear too. I have a hard time sporting the ones with our face on it.
Yeah, this is the first one that doesn't have your face on it.
Can I say this as well? I don't know if anyone
Yeah.
else has pointed this out to you. They might have done, but I love the logo. It's nice.
Thank you.
But it does look. I know this is Mrs. May, but it does look like you've got a tattoo of Richard on your arm.
Yeah.
This is podcast commitment. If Brad sees that, he'll be expecting me to get inked up at some point
Yeah.
as well. But yeah. No, I love that one, and also because it's got with the dark arts. I've got no idea why that drew you to the Ouija board with Mr. Frank Mir on your side.
Yeah.
I got to take him to the haunted houses last night.
Not talk about.
Oh,
that.
really?
Let's not talk
Yes.
about that.
Okay. All right. We're going to get into that in a second.
Let's not go back.
He was actually. I don't think I can ever go to a haunted house now without Bryan. Like I'll sit there and I'm like, no, I need Bryan. The response that Bryan, his fearful.
No, it was a dark room. There was a very camp Englishman behind me who was really scared. All right. Now I looked after him. You looked after your family. We're both heroes here. Okay. Let's leave it there.
At any point, did Bryan leap into your arms?
Do you know what? At one point when it went pitch black, I reached out, and I've never felt so much comfort in another man's touch before in my life. Just having him in front of me, and like he didn't flinch or anything like that. He just walked through. We're getting electrocuted. People are jumping out and grabbing us. I'm like, literally, with his kids just turning around laughing at me as well. So I've lost all butch points.
Yeah.
The hairdryer, asking you for a hairdryer to start with was not a good
Yeah,
thing.
that
but,
threw me off.
but
That's okay. You're speaking to the choir here.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
If you can't find one over here, let me know. I always carry a spare.
hook me up, all right.
The
there
first time
go.
we ever stayed in a room together, we were out of town, L.A., and he goes in the room. He's like, and he comes out and he's like doing his hair, and I'm like, oh, okay. But I guess I was not so surprised because the length of Richard's hair.
yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that's acceptable. It's kind of the old '80s rock band thing going here. They use blow dryers. That's cool,
Yeah.
And then, but when you said it, I'm looking at you. I'm like, your hair's as long as mine on top. What the hell do you need a blow dryer for? Have you ever used in your life a blow dryer? Uh-oh.
Travis?
Yeah, you cut me off guard.
Can you blow dry your hair while still wearing a ball cap? I don't know how that works.
Yeah, the ball cap doesn't come off very often.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
how would you sharpen a knife and load a gun while blow drying your hair?
But
when
what
you're
does the
that
blow
mad
dryer
with
do
it?
when you have short hair? I mean, just dry it with a towel, right?
It just gives me a bit of a boof.
Yeah.
It just
Is
adds
that what-
body.
gives it
adds body.
volume.
Volume.
Is
That's
that what
the
it is?
adjective.
Yeah.
That's right. Volume. I can leave the room with confidence then, Mr. Mayor.
I got you.
That's right.
I don't even use a hair comb.
I know you don't. But this is the amazing thing. So he'll have a 14-hour flight to wherever the hell in the world they're sending us, ending in Stan, and you'll arrive 4 a.m. You'll get up after 5 hours sleep. You'll eat breakfast with your bedhead, and then 10 minutes later you'll come downstairs looking like a Cuban goddess once again.
Yep.
It's
I know.
it's annoying, isn't it?
It's-
I'm
it's
into
annoying.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it takes me a lot of work to look this homeless. You know, like I can't. This is ironically, I don't just roll out of bed like
Do
this.
you know when I first met my wife? Like I own toothbrush, deodorant, but to me, hair care products was Vaseline.
What?
I used to just put Vaseline in my hair.
Oh, wow.
It worked. I mean, because
No
Three
wonder
Flowers is
Yeah.
A lot of people who are Hispanic will use that. And for a while, I'm looking, I'm like, wow, I'm buying this for this price. I could buy a thing of Vaseline for this price. It's the same shit, just without perfume in it. All right, Vaseline. Boop.
Wow.
And plus have some lube in a pinch.
Yeah, there you go.
You know.
Anytime before a fight, I can go ahead and...
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the compliment on the logo there, Brad. Actually, you know, a fellow Brit, Ross Chester, designed that for us. His,
nice.
Boss Creations did that. But if you want the new Ouija board T-shirt, it is at phoneboothfighting.com. Shipping now, just in time for Halloween, and discounted at 20% off for the moment, since it is a brand new release. Frank, one more item of business before we dive into more content here. Tell them about that Amazon banner on the front of phoneboothfighting.com.
It's another way to really help out the show. And if anybody does any shopping online and you use Amazon specifically, just make sure you click through our banner to do so, because at no extra charge to you, a small percentage comes back to us to assist with the show.
All right, we got fights to talk about here in a little bit. I guess we ought to just work in reverse order, because if you're tuning in on the Phone Booth Fighting YouTube channel and looking into the bunker here, what you're seeing is just three working comedians sitting around.
Three jobbing comics just hanging out.
Shooting the breeze.
It's like the green room, isn't it? Just
It
before
is
we
like
go
the
on.
green
That's
room.
right.
It sure is, because last night the three of us took the stage, working together for the first time at the Stratosphere Hotel and Casino here in Las Vegas, inside the LA Comedy Club. That's my home club. The great Butch Bradley, who you've heard a couple of times now on the podcast, was headlining. It's his residency, and what happened was Frank. First of all, Frank, how about this? 2 stand-up gigs in 1 week for Frank Mir.
That's more than a lot of jobbing comics out there.
It is.
Now.
It sure is,
Genuinely,
right?
Genuinely.
I mean, it's at this point, it's more frequently than you've never fought twice in 1 week,
No.
right? No. So some could say that now you were doing stand-up with more frequency.
I am, especially of late.
Than fighting. So what we did was, first of all, Tuesday night, and a huge thank you to everybody who came out for this. You may have heard on the last episode that Frank and I, along with Butch and the staff over at LA Comedy Club, organized a benefit show for the Shooting Victims Relief Fund here in Las Vegas, and we did it like on a week's notice, and we had a lot of people come out. We raised a lot of money. We had great auction item prizes that were donated. So thanks to everybody who was a part of that, and we really appreciate you supporting us. So Frank did some stand up on that show as well. And then you guys, after that, you and Bryan were off to Montreal because you had to call ACB action.
Canada, yep.
Right. So I get the text from Frank. Says, hey, you think maybe we could get another stand-up gig this week? I was like, boy, you are getting into this.
Yes, that's a dangerous thing, yeah.
So I said, yeah, all right, so let me see what I can do. So I called up Butch. Butch's like, oh, yeah, that's awesome, no problem. He basically just turned his show over to us. I mean, he headlined, but he included us.
Did you hear the story of how we got our slots? This is the sad truth of what happened.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
There was other comics waiting to go on, so they turned up. So because we came, 2 of the comics that were going to go on, only one of them could go on. So he made them pick a number.
Really? We bumped some guys out,
So they basically they each picked a number. 1 picked 7, 1 picked 3, and the number 4 was the one Butch had in his pocket or whatever. So,
I did not hear this story.
Yeah, so one comic who turned up with obviously came up.
Oh, you're already getting heat with the comics.
Did you feel the tighter hand grip? Yeah,
shoulder. You're like, yeah.
Traveled all this way. I've hitchhiked to this gig, and
I tell you what, this is the fast track to comedy success here, Frank. Because this is actually the kind of thing that happens. Like if you ever go to the Comedy Store in LA, like on a Saturday night, something like that, those comics have worked so hard to get these slots, and what'll happen is somebody will be on the list for 11 o'clock slot or whatever, and 2 minutes before they go on, if Chris Rock walks in,
bye.
Sorry, have a seat at the bar. We'll get to you when we get to you.
Watch this,
and that happens.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I just thought it would be a good idea because the fact that we're doing shows so close together. We're going to be in Montreal this Saturday, and then I knew that we were going down to Rio. So originally, it even started out that me talking to Bryan, going, "Hey man, are you really going to fly all the way back?" And then come back through, and so just stay at my house for a couple of days. And then knowing that, I was like, "Oh shit, you're a stand-up comic. It's
Yep.
your day job,
And a
basically.
good one, by
Right,
the way.
yeah.
Really good.
So I'm like,
that was a
thanks,
great
brother.
set.
Thanks.
So let's
Yeah.
go ahead and jump this in and get it going forward. I was
Yeah.
like, I thought maybe just slide us in during the week sometime. I didn't realize it gets such a quick
It
turnaround.
was awesome though.
Yeah.
They just, and I think we kind of let the moment slip of us three doing it together as well a little bit, because it all happened so quickly. And but that like I felt good about that gig. Everybody had a good gig. It wasn't an easy room. And you doing your first, because you pointed this out, this is your third gig, but your first actual gig in a comedy club. This wasn't an audience built for you.
Yeah.
That was you getting up there, and you did great, man. You did awesome. You both did awesome. I thought both, but because it's your third gig,
Yep.
I thought, you handled that room as well as anybody.
That was actually something I'm glad I got to conquer, because I've been worried about that.
Yeah.
Because, when we did the podcast first, it was filled with, during a fight week, we had fans there. So it was a very MMA and Frank Mir favorable room, right? So I'm like, all right, basically as long as I don't completely, take a dive, I'll be okay, right? And then on the same thing with the celebrity or, our charity event that we did on Tuesday. So then we're sitting there for this one. I'm sitting there watching the whole room, and comics are one after another is just struggling to get the people to laugh. And I'm like, wow. So the veterans are having a difficult time. And all my material is kind of based on the fact that that I'm what the UFC is, and I'm looking here at the crowd, and none of these people have ever even watched a fight. I'm like, this might be a problem.
Yeah. But I've also got to say, Butch Bradley was awesome. That is not an easy room. That was not. I'm sure it is other nights, but that particular room was not an easy one to host, and he was brilliant. And just having us on, and I thought I was really impressed with him.
We benefited from the fact that he basically headlined from the hosting position. What I mean by that is he started the show and he ended the show, and he would do material in between each comic.
This is what we do in England. Though. This I
that's
think
how it goes
sets the room up nicely, because if you have a poor host, or if you have someone who's not as experienced and that's a tough room, they're going to struggle to keep lifting the audience. Or flip side, if the audience is really high up and they're too drunk or too energetic, they're going to struggle to bring them down. Yeah. So having an act with good experience like a headliner is what we use in England, so that they can control the sort of energy of the room, and also set it up for the comics properly, not just in style of the energy, but also if you know what type of comic it is. If it's a very low key, you won't give them this huge big build up beforehand, or you can set it up. So that hosting job is one of the hardest, but I think it works better within a comic with much more experience. And he was brilliant yesterday. That little bit of play he had with the guy.
His crowd work is second to none.
It was fantastic.
I've worked with so many comics, and I can't say I've ever seen anybody that's better than him that I've worked with at crowd work, where it's like it's improv, it's not his routine, it's just what has he got, with the audience.
But it's also taking risks, so you dip in, and like we had an interesting character, let's put it that way, in the front row, and he said, even said it on stage, my years of experience is telling me this will either take it one way and make it a great show, or this could dive down. And even some of the topics when he started talking about his kids, and it's like, and the bloke, and he said, we ain't done yet.
You could tell he hit a sore spot, and he just kept
found it. You told me. I was looking for it, now I found it.
But that's experience. Other comics would have backed off that, or would have been like so. And first of all, the generosity of just getting us on the show and doing that was amazing. But then I was really impressed with him, mate.
Well, the interesting lesson about that, and it's interesting Bryan brings that up, because at that point, that crowd was really stiff until Butch keyed in on that guy in the front, and it was a little. I mean, it was good natured in the sense that it's not like the guy tried to attack him or whatever, but it was a little intense. I mean, he was hammering him, and what happens there is Butch realizes, okay, one way or another, I got to break this crowd open because they're too stiff. So this is going to do it, but once it breaks open, we just don't know which way it's going, like you just said, right?
Exactly.
And then
that's the thing that made me nervous. I think I was talking a little bit before we ate, is that they go, okay, here's the order of what we're going to do things. And as I'm seeing people struggle, I'm like, oh, fuck. But then it goes, well, Richard's going to go before you. I'm like, all right, cool. Richard's super funny. I know that
it's great
guy to follow, right? I'm like, all right, cool. I'll be between Richard and Bryan. That's a nice position to be, right? And then as he comes down, he goes, hey, we're going to change it over. So he put a different comic to go after. He's going to go now. And when he named the guy, I was like, oh, okay, that guy's hella funny.
Yeah.
All right, no big deal. But then because of the room, now you just realize two different comics, just like fighters, or deal with different situations. And so when he went up there, he struggled with the room too at first. But whereas the other guy seemed to just kind of go with it and build on it, it really bothered him. And I'm watching it bother him, and then now it's bothering the crowd, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, no, Richard had him going well. I said, okay, next act. I'm like, oh shit, man.
Well, I'll say this: this is some. Butch and I were talking about this after you left, Frank. Like, this was the next test. I mean, the first test, obviously, is you go up your first time. You do that. The next test is, okay, what happens when you tell some jokes that have worked really well before, and they're not bombing, but they're just. Sometimes it's almost worse when it's not a bomb, but it's more of a tepid response, because you're like, what you want to do is, me anyway, my temptation was always to, listen, I don't know what's wrong with you people, but 2 nights ago I was here, and that killed, which you can't do because they weren't.
I was getting a lot of the response was the kind of like, when someone looks at something that's kind of funny, you don't laugh, you're like, that's funny. You know what I mean? Like, that was kind of like looking around. A couple times I'd say a joke, right, Travis? And then in my mind, last time I go, this one really worked well. And then I say it and I look, and I'm the only one kind of giggling, like, oh, wow. On to the next one.
But it is the next test. That's the thing, because this and the world of comedy is, and we've done the similarities between comedy and fighting before. But it's there's so many variables. There's so many variables. You can have have a solid set. You could have been going for years. You could have a TV profile, but you can walk into a room that just doesn't get you, or you can walk into a room where something's happened. It might even be the mic or the sound system isn't quite right, and you have to deal with that. You have to figure that out. You only get that from experience. But going up there and doing that yesterday, like you stood confidently in front of. Not an easy crowd, not your crowd.
Yeah, no,
your delivery was excellent. I was watching it and I was looking back, and even the jokes that like you got some jokes that hit really well, and jokes that you sort of bumped over, which happens with all of us. But even with that, it didn't faze you. You kept going. You were having a good time, and that's what matters on stage as well. Oh. The audience feed off that. If they see you crack, if they see you start thinking, oh shit!
Right?
Because they want to like you, and it's kind of like if they see you having a good time, even if everything isn't completely hitting with them, they're like, well, I want to have the good time he's having. If he's having that good, why am I not having this good time? So they come along with you, as opposed to the opposite. I'll tell you another good thing I thought too was by the way, if you're wondering about this comedy act, well, you need to come out and see it. If people are going, what are all these jokes? I don't know the routine. Well, that's because you haven't come out to see it. So you need to make your plans. Apparently, there will be a lot more of these coming, so you got to come out and see Frank live. But like, for example, you have you got a bit that references Chris Weidman. And the first 2 times you did it, you could just say Chris Weidman. Everybody in the room would know who it was.
Exactly.
And I realized last night, because these are just tourists. This is a room full of nothing but tourists. And I thought you said it, but very quickly, I think you realized that in your head, because you came back and added in he was a UFC middleweight champion at the time, and
filled the gap.
Yeah, that helped establish it.
Context and but I also liked what you said as well. After when we we're on the escalator going down, you said it's so much like fighting, because just before you went and stepped up there, you were like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And it's so true, because even like with years of experience, and this is what drew me into this job. I remember starting out doing some of the smaller gigs, and I gigged with a comedian that's been going for about 24 years, and he was pacing around, and I'd been going for like 6 months or something. I was like, are you nervous? He said, yeah. He said, you tell me one other job where 24 years in, you're still nervous, you still want to do well, it still matters this much to you. And I was like, I'm sold. That's it. And but that's the thing, that fear, making that walk, it's like jumping out of a plane. You never know what's going to happen, but this is in your hand. You can do this, man. I really believe that you could do this. You look good up there. We got a picture. We got a picture.
Yeah. Show them the picture there, Travis. We got
I'm a little rusty. I might have closed it out, but I'll pull it.
That's all right.
Yeah, Travis, but it's over there in preview.
But the material as well it's getting it. You understand how to make people laugh. That is absolutely a fact. And most of the time, if you probably see some of the open mics coming up, or trying out stuff, and that bit of just having confidence on the set, taking a mic out of a mic stand, standing there with confidence. You go and watch some open mic nights, and you'll see. Even just having that, you're already 20 yards, 30 yards ahead of a lot of comics.
All right, now Brian just said open mic nights. Now, this is the next thing we need to do.
What's the next test?
Because
let's do it this week.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm so in. I'm in on this journey. This is it. I want.
So the thing about open mics is, I mean, now last night you experienced.
Do we tell him or do we let him see it?
The
thing about open heart surgery is okay.
Am I going to need to go drinking afterwards?
Yeah, we're going before as well.
You think after you crash after a fight's bad? Wait till you bomb on stage.
I'll give you let's see. I'll give you a minute, Brian, to think of maybe your worst open mic story because I've got one.
One second.
Okay, good. So the thing about open mics, and they're not all created.
Still seeing counseling over that.
They're not all created equal. I mean, some are better than others. Some are better organized than others. In fact, it's not exactly an open mic because it's a booked show, but Saturday night, just the night before we did our gig, I was at LA Comedy Club because they have a show there called The Stool, and the deal is it's an invite show, so you have to be booked on it. So it's all pro comedians, but everybody does brand new material they've never done anywhere.
Let's do that.
Yeah, it's really good. But there's this. Vegas is great for. It's like AA meetings. You could find one every night of the week if you need to. And some are more organized than others. But here's my best worst open mic story, and it actually happened here in Las Vegas just right after I moved here because I was going around checking them out, and. A lot of them are in bars, and they're in bars that aren't comedy clubs. You know, it's just comedy night inside the bar. So the first thing is you've got people coming into that bar that don't realize that they're supposed to be quiet, right? They think it's rowdy bar night where there's going to be music playing or sports on the TV or whatever. So I'm looking up open mics, and I find this one in town. It's at this place called the Blind Tiger, and the sign-up is at midnight on Sunday night. The sets start at 1 a.m. and it goes all night. So I walk into this place, and it is clearly formerly a Tejano bar that they still have all the Tejano decoration up on the wall.
I'm sorry, I'm ignorant. What is Tejano?
Like Hispanic, Conjunto music. Like, you know what? When you flip around the radio dial and every third station is now like
That
whole I don't
what the Mexican fighters usually walk out to.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. Like,
okay.
Yeah.
Like mariachi sort of stuff.
Like that. Yeah, okay. But maybe just a little more.
So the guys wearing the boots that are really long and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not that anymore, but all the decor is still up on the wall.
Okay.
So I go in, sign up at midnight. It's gonna start at 1 a.m. whatever, and I got through my set okay. But you're seeing a lot of guys come up that maybe have never even been up before, or if they have, they're just starting, and so they're shaking. I mean, you see them holding the mic and it's shaking, like this.
They're my favorites.
Yeah. So I see a guy like that get up, and he's just shaking like this. Now they have turned off the music in the place, so everybody can hear, and it's a lot of comics in there, so they at least know not to talk. They're at least being respectful of listening to whoever's up for their time. But there was a guy, some old drunk, sitting at the bar, and right next to the stage, they had a Papa Shot. One of those basketball games where you just stand, you throw the ball in the hoop. So the guy's up there, and he's just started his routine. He's just struggling, the mic's shaking, and he's trying to remember his bit. I watch a guy get up from the bar, walk over to that Papa Shot, drop a quarter in. The thing's right next to the stage, and he just starts throwing the basketball. You know how much noise that thing makes? It sounds like when a washing machine is off balance, just ka-choong, 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 and the guy with the mic has to just stand there and just fight through his bit.
Oh, that's quality.
Did he make it at least through?
He did. He got all the way through.
I got a similar one to that. This is the open mic one, but in Edinburgh, so I was doing the festival. I got invited.
Oh, it's a big comedy festival.
Great festival. It's amazing. So it's a month of just comedians descending on the city, and all sorts of stuff happens. But there was each day there was a weapons of mass destruction gig, which is not raising money for weapons of mass destruction. It's for people affected by it, so for villages, children, all that sort of stuff. So what they would do is they'd have a speaker come on, they'd pitch their charity, they'd show the good work they're doing, and then
which is a great opener, by the way, to have somebody come up talk about kids who've had their limbs blown off.
Mate.
Now some comedy.
But that was quite literally it. So I got into this room, and so there's a lady. Apparently she's very well known, and she got up there and she started showing images of young people that had been hurt. And then she said, I also want to read my award-winning beat poem to this. So she was doing pretty much like the Bono, the click thing. Do you remember that when they did that?
Yeah.
So she's doing this, and she's talking about really dark, deep stuff. And it is actually, if you take it in the full context, which it's supposed to be appreciated in, a wonderful tribute and sort of heartfelt thing from things she's visually seen herself. So, but if you take it from the context of you've got to go up there and be funny, the furthest thing you want to be away from is kids with missing limbs.
Who would even think they'd mix these two together?
But this is I have no idea. So what I did was I disappeared to the back of the room, trying to just keep that out, just like appreciate what's going on, but stay in the zone to be funny, because you don't want to go up there and So I went to the back of the room, and there's all the flashy machines. So we have slot machines in England, games machines where you do quizzes. You've got them here as well. But so I just thought, right, what I'll do is I'll just do a quiz and I'll do that. But there's an old game show called Bullseye in England, which has got a very famous theme tune. It's a big bull, and he plays darts. And so I put the coin in just as she's finishing the most dramatic part of the thing, and it suddenly goes out of the machine because I didn't think it was on, so there's no noise. So she finishes the thing. It's coming right to the end of the crescendo, and the music that goes dun 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 moo. So everyone turned around. And then, quite literally, she was fuming. She walked off, and the guy, they were all fuming. The guy, they just thought it was a bloke in the pub that did not appreciate what was going on. And then without any step in between, he just said, "And now for your comedian, Bryan Lacey." And so the guy who just ruined the night had to walk on and try and be. I wasn't funny that day. I'm going to tell you absolutely truthfully. But my worst open mic one. London is just like a honeypot for open mics. You can. It's a beautiful place for comedy. It's new comedy. At big established clubs, but when I was coming up through the circuit, you got to go out and you got to earn your stripes, do these open mic nights. So I was signing up for 4, 5, 6 gigs a night, not a night, a week, going out, just travelling into London. And the worst one was a little pub in Finchley. Got in there, I thought it's quite busy. This could be a good gig. It was all comedians waiting to do this, and then I figured out the audience was made up of one bloke at the bar who's obviously just at that bar all day long drunk, and a couple from Holland with only one of them that speaks English. So what had to happen for every comedian that went up there is, and they very politely said, we'll stay and watch the show, we've never seen English comedy before, was you'd have to go up, you'd tell your joke, she would translate it, and then he would either laugh or just stare at you. So I remember it specifically that I told it was all animated, because he was still young. It was like only my 50th gig or something stupid like that. And so I'm doing all this animated stuff, and I tell her the joke, and then she translates, and he just goes, that one hurt. So yeah,
I have never had this happen to me, but I've seen other comics where there will be a deaf person in the crowd, and they bring their sign language person.
Yes,
and they'll put the sign language person up by the stage, and that he or she signs everything that's being said. That's always funny to watch, because especially if you start getting really racy, really like sexual, like, they're trying to figure out what some of the words are. And it's also funny too, because sometimes the comic will just blame it on the translator.
Oh,
like,
that's funny.
Clearly something's lost, and it's your fault.
Did you see the hip hop artist who didn't realise they had somebody translating at the side of the stage at a festival? This is recently, so he's just, because they obviously translate while dancing and that, so he just thought it was a dancer. So he climbs down off the stage, she's translating, and he's like dancing, and he believes she's just dancing, and he's she's translating the words. But,
wow.
So and then halfway through he kind of realised, oh shit, she's a translator.
Yeah.
So
no, I didn't know this.
She must look pretty decent, huh?
Yeah, she was all right. She was nice. Yeah.
It's interesting that under duress she could still continue.
She improved, if anything.
The signing.
That's it.
That's excellent. All right, we got a little fight talk to catch up on. I realize this is going on a couple of weeks old, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet since we've all been here in the bunker, and that is the historic accomplishment of our friend Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson, Frank. He breaks Anderson Silva's long-standing record of consecutive title defenses in the UFC and defeats Ray Borg, submits him in the 5th round by I mean, I guess you call it a flying armbar. He was a
suplex armbar. That's what he calls it.
Yeah. He was about to suplex Ray Borg, gets him up in the air, and as he's coming down, catches Ray Borg's left arm and lands in the armbar position. I mean, he can call it whatever he wants to because I've never seen it before, so he may as well, christen the name.
Do you want to know what it is called? I forgot. It's actually because it was what. Let's be honest. It's one of the coolest moves. One of the greatest finishes. That's ever happened. So some people, I think. Who's a friend? MMA junkie journalist, is it? Or
John Morgan.
John Morgan.
Okay.
John Morgan said we should call it the Mousetrap.
Oh, that's good.
That's a great name. It should be the Mousetrap.
Ah, that's awesome.
That's a cool name. But Demetrious Johnson, wait there. Sorry, I'm just having to disagree to some of. Why have you done this now? There you go. So John Morgan said we should call it the Mousetrap, which is the perfect name. It is I think the best finish we've seen. Like we've talked about it before, but the Showtime kick, amazing, but did not finish Benson Henderson. This finished Ray Borg, someone who's never been finished.
There's that too.
And do you want to know what he's decided to call it? The Mighty Whiz Bar. Yeah, that's the silence it needs. The Mighty Whiz Bar is what DJ calls it. He said I've got another submission that no one's seen that I call the Mousetrap.
Okay,
but. That's a terrible name for such a cool move, isn't it?
The Mighty Whiz Bar.
The Mighty Whiz Bar. If you're on, cause when you go through Sherdog, and we obviously research the fights a lot for ACB, don't we, Frank?
Yeah.
We do. And when we're going through Sherdog and we're looking at the finishes, Kimura, head and arm choke, if you saw Mighty Whiz Bar, you wouldn't be that scared by the Mighty Whiz Bar.
No, I think it was on the wrong column. I'd be like, hey man, is this like some
sounds like a sugary treat, doesn't it?
That sounds like something a guy asked for an extra $50.
I was going to say it sounds like somebody who reads your tarot cards. Like that sounds like somebody's going to tell you your future at the fair.
Whiz Bar.
Come and see the Mighty Whiz Bar. There we go.
But you know what? I can kind of see just knowing DJ's personality because he's like that video
now I want to see the
gaming,
Mousetrap that he has.
Yeah,
he said he's holding that back.
Mousetrap.
That sounds cool.
It's a cool ass name.
Yeah, that's a cool name, isn't it? So he says he's got one move that no one's ever done before, and that is the Mousetrap. So he says he will do that.
That's a pretty good card to play because now all media people are going to be asking you, build up to the next fight. The fight
will
for that
we
fight.
see the Mousetrap?
Could this be the one? Yeah, where we see the Mousetrap.
He needs some kind of connection because we're talking about that. For as phenomenal of a fighter as he is, the best fighter now in the world, pound for pound, it's hard to make an argument otherwise. The records are just falling left and right, and he still doesn't have the same following that some other guys do.
Do you think, because now you and he, Frank, share the same management, do you think that could help him? Because I don't know. I think, I don't mean to speak out of school if any of this is incorrect, but I believe that he's never had like a high-profile manager before. I think Matt Hume has maybe helped manage him. Okay, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's what I assumed. And I'm sure Matt, I mean, they have a very close bond, so I'm sure Matt is still working with him in that capacity. But to my knowledge, this is the first time that he's ever signed with like a big agent. So that being said, we're talking about Malky and Abe, the Kawa brothers. So, I mean, because I just wonder if that could help him in the sense of these are people who are in regular contact with the UFC and not just talking about him. They represent other. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
I don't know. That factor of just people wanting to click in to see you, it seems to not really be something, I don't know, something I can't quantify. Guys either have it and you see it pretty much immediately once they get onto a big stage, or guys don't. And for whatever reason there can be, which I don't quite get it, because I find Demetrious very interesting. I think his personality is something that most people would sit there and go, well, this is a great example of what a martial artist should be. Yeah. A ferocious fighter inside the cage,
skilled, technical, flamboyant.
And then once he steps outside, well spoken. You're never gonna have to worry about him being on TMZ, being pulled out of a car with hookers and fucking blow all over. Like, he's just a good guy in every aspect, and it just doesn't connect. There's no, for whatever reason, the drive to watch him fight is just not as great as what I would think it would be, and I don't know what that is. I don't know why people are like, I would much rather watch a fighter fight rather than B.
Yeah, I think that's been the case up till now, and I think it's one of those things we can't quantify because he is the greatest of all time. He is without a doubt the most technical, the most skilled. His execution is unbelievable. Pulling that armbar off against Ray Borg, someone who's never been finished in the 5th round. To do a move like that on another human, he could have ground that out.
That's what I was going to say. In a fight that he was winning hands down for 4 rounds,
he was right,
no reason,
all over him for the entire fight
to
pull that out. And this is what we've talked about this after the fight. I think he made that moment, that record-breaking moment, despite the UFC. I think the UFC failed to push what a massive moment that was, what a monumental moment to break that record was. He was on the co-main event under an interim title. Yes, they'd shifted him from another thing, but he's breaking a record. They gave him no promo, no sort of big up on this. The fact he pulled that move off and made it go viral is something that made that moment even more special. The people in the audience seemed to understand what they were seeing, but I think the UFC failed DJ with the fact that they did not give enough credence to the accomplishment. That's massive. Smashing Anderson Silva's record is absolutely huge, and I think it was a turning point in potentially his pay-per-views as well. That performance, the recognition that move is getting through journalists, fellow athletes, and fans. I'm hoping that moves that needle for him, so he can be a pay-per-view star and he can be the martial artist and the ambassador for the sport that we need. That we want.
Well, let me throw a theory out then that I've sort of just thought of, because it's a riddle for me too, like Frank introduced. I mean, I've wondered for the longest time, because even as somebody who has trained some martial arts on just a rudimentary level, to me that makes me appreciate him all the more, what he can do, to see the technical aspect of what he does. It's sort of like, for me, it's sort of like there are guitar players that you appreciate so much more if you play a little guitar. You don't have to be a virtuoso, but if you just know a little bit about playing, you see somebody in an entirely different way.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Yeah.
So here's my theory. I wonder if, because there are two truths about professional MMA, and that is the fandom is overwhelmingly male and it's overwhelmingly white, and it's also overwhelmingly, I would say, even as much as the sport has evolved, who have always been the attention getters in the sports. Guys that you could look at and point to your buddy and go, how scary does that guy look? Like Chuck Liddell, who's a nice guy, but he has a mohawk and there's a tattoo on his head. Or Vanderlei Silva, who looks like a scary, people who look like scary people. Large guys, too. Of course, DJ's on the opposite end of that spectrum. But not only being a smaller guy, but being like a video game nerd, like Frank was talking about. I mean, he's at the same time the most lethal in some ways, and also the most unassuming. So here's my thought. I wonder if all the people that would be fans of Demetrious Johnson don't know that they would be fans of DJ, because they may not be watching the product. It may not be an issue of marketing to the existing fans. What if they could go out to that video game culture, which is so huge, and go, hey, you know how you and your nerd friends...
Good point. I mean, holy shit. I mean,
one of you is actually a badass.
Yeah. That's a great point. But they should do that. They've got the ability to do that.
They could advertise at those big... I mean, they're selling out now arenas where you go and watch guys play video games.
Right.
That's crazy.
Have they ever done any advertisement there? Because you're right.
Haven't made an appearance.
Comic-Con, anything like
that.
Those
are DJ's fans. 100%.
Yeah, and those guys are so loyal. I mean, the reason why that's such big business is because those people spend all their money on that. And that's for a fantasy world. I mean, imagine if they could go, wow, one of us that's... nothing, a physically unassuming person is actually this world beater, and we can all get behind him. I think it may just be for the fact they don't know he's there.
That's a great angle. That is a great angle. But the UFC should know that. They should know that they when they market to various people, they know where to take Cowboy Cerrone. They know because what he is and how he comes across to the fans. They know where to take Michael Bisping. They know what to do with GSP. They should know what to do with Demetrious Johnson. They should understand. He was sponsored by Xbox. He had the best sponsorship of any fighter. This is before the Reebok deal, obviously. But even when people were getting covered in Monster and all that sort of stuff, his only sponsor was Xbox. He was the cleanest looking. It was the best sponsorship. It was the perfect match. The UFC know it's there, but they're just not using it, and that's a massive part that they're missing. They're not building stars.
You know what? After you said that, now I realize that the example of the fact that if we look at DJ's pay-per-view buys, if they're not that high, you're right. It's not really a failure on him, and not a failure like I don't get it. It's the UFC's marketing crew does not make the connection.
Tap into this guy.
There
You're
are
looking for
people
stars.
that
You've got one.
You're right. There's a whole genre of human beings that's their guy, and they don't even know he exists.
And the kind of people that we're talking about, introducing him to, they're used to paying $60 for something because that's how much a video game costs.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't think anything about it.
And your upgrade levels and everything else that you got to do. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know what,
man? Yeah.
Here's what you pass this on to Malky and Abe. Here's what they should do. You know how they never let Cowboy out without wearing his cowboy hat and having a Budweiser in his hand?
Yeah.
DJ should never go anywhere from now on without having a gaming headset on and a game controller in his hand, even if it's unplugged, just with the cord trailing along behind him.
I love that. That would be a great image.
But you're right, booking them at places like a Comic-Con or just some of the video game
tying your expos into it as well. Do that. Take him down.
Yeah, and I know DJ does a lot of that stuff himself, like with his Twitch channel and everything. But as hard as he works at that, it's nothing compared to the power that the UFC and the new ownership. On top of that, they could really get behind it. Get him in, like when one of these movies gets turned, or one of these video games gets turned into a movie, get him a part in that. You're putting Ronda Rousey in all the Expendables movies. Get DJ a part as the nerd gamer who somehow saves the world and kicks some ass.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, we just solved his problem.
That's it. It's done.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
I made him rich. So we'll just take a small percentage of that. That's fine.
Hopefully, somebody will tune into this podcast and catch that. Hey, we got to give a shout out to speaking of our friends, Onna Ivanova. Frank has her fight coming up Friday. And she's going to be on the undercard of a fight that is being headlined by former UFC middleweight contender Gegard Mousasi, taking on Alexander Shlemenko, who is the former Bellator middleweight champion. And Anna's making her Bellator debut on the undercard of that. And, well, first of all, thoughts on that. Anna is 2-2 in MMA. Maybe we can get her on by phone or something to talk about it. But she is most notably known as a decorated boxing champion. But what are your thoughts? I mean, you've trained her, you've helped coach her, and all that kind of thing.
No, it's extremely versed on her feet, not only just with her hands, but has actually a very strong karate background, so her kicks and movement. And I think that I think now she's going to transition very well. I think before, though, earlier on in her career, she was learning how to keep everything in the boxing world. And I think that is an okay approach to MMA training. But of late, I finally told her, just go to Drysdale's, train, learn how to be a jiu-jitsu practitioner and learn how to grapple. And then that way you can reverse engineer it. The same thing as if you want to learn how to beat boxing, learn how to box first. And then if during the fight you don't want to box, you understand what it takes to make boxing work because you yourself now have an understanding of it instead of just trying to do this anti-jiu-jitsu or anti-striking type approach. So we'll see. Hopefully, that she's able to keep it where she's at. Obviously, striking, she's phenomenal at, and, we're constantly building the ground game.
Well, she's got this going for her on the ground. I've worked with her a little bit on the ground. And hopefully her opponent is not listening to this particular episode of the podcast. But I have shown Anna a secret move that I have. It's basically my mousetrap. It's a move.
Is it a mousetrap or a whiz bar? What have you been dealing with over there?
I have not named.
Did you get
this
your whiz
move.
bar out in this? Was it anything involving a whiz?
No.
good,
In
good.
fact, well, you know what? I've said too much already. I don't want to give too much away. Let me just say, this is a move. It's a well, I'll tell you, it's a particular choke. It's a choke that I can always catch people in one time, and by people, I mean people who are first week of jiu-jitsu, but still people. But it's I don't know. I mean, sometime, Frank, I'm gonna have to tell you what it is, and you can tell me if it's total BS or not. But I just find that, and people that are my skill level, I found I've always been able to catch them one time. They always said they were expecting something different, and they didn't see that coming. And then once they see it, of course, the jig is up, and they know the next time I go for it. But she is armed with it. And I have always secretly hoped that a fighter could use this.
What? Imagine that. Imagine if you... Is it Saturday night she's fighting?
Yeah. Is it Friday or Saturday?
This weekend.
You look that up real quick, Travis, when the Bellator.
But imagine that. You're sat at home.
It's Friday night.
Watching that. You're sat at home watching that, and she pulls out
that would be awesome.
Your mousetrap. That'd be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah. I'm excited. I hope she does it.
I'll show you guys off camera, because I don't need this getting out. I'm very particular about who... Yeah, Friday. I'm very particular about who I show this to.
I got to say, the Mousasi-Shlemenko fight is an awesome fight as well.
And I'll tell you what's interesting. It is awesome. You're right, Brian. It's also, if you look at Bellator's middleweight division, not as much depth as there is in some of the other ones, especially where the big free agents are coming over and that sort of thing. I mean, they got Frank now in the heavyweights. They got a number of heavyweights over there now. Yeah, Rory McDonald was a big signing for him. Benson Henderson, Lorenz Larkin. But as far as middleweights, I mean, Shlemenko is their former champion. I was going through their roster earlier today, and I was thinking, man, Mousasi, I know, number of fights Shlemenko's had, 52-9, yeah. But Mousasi has to be just a complete odds-on favorite right now to come over there and claim their middleweight title. I would have to think.
There's been something happen with Bellator, I think, and it happened with some of the Strikeforce fighters coming over to the UFC. There's if you look at Benson Henderson, he's not got any. Has he got a win over there yet? No, he hasn't. One. He's got one. People have been jumping over there, and it's not been as easy.
That's true.
It's not been as easy as they thought they would have been to make that transition. Lorenz Larkin lost as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
So this is a tough fight. Shlemenko is tough. He was the long reigning middleweight champion as well. He then went and he fought Tito Ortiz, which was a crazy fight to make, really, and he got totally outsized. Then he failed the drugs test, and now he's come back. But he's going against Mousasi. Mousasi for me was a sign that was. I sound like I'm hating on the UFC. I love the UFC. I still enjoy it, but it just makes me that sign in particular. Made me think that they should have held on to Mousasi. Mousasi was that with the Weidman fight, with the run he was on, with what he was doing. He is an option at middleweight, and I know they've got the division stuck now with the GSP Bisping fight, but having him in the mix there, having him there was that is a world class fighter that is just getting better and better. So much experience, and they let him go, and I think he's odds on to take this.
I don't know if they're letting him go. I think that the mentality we're starting to see now, which is a great mentality it's going to benefit the fans, because in the end you're going to have very competitive organizations, and the last, for the longest time now, the UFC, ever since Pride went away, has been the #1 show. And held the lion's share of all the fighters and basically controlled it. And now that Bellator is increasing, and I think one of the things it is that 2 or 3 years from now, I think the UFC guys will look back and go, shit, we kind of did it to ourselves. We shot ourselves in the foot. Is that their mentality when dealing with fighters is, well, you want to fight for us, right? You want to have that. You want to be a UFC fighter. So we don't have to pay you what you're worth because you want to be here. Whereas the Bellator guys go, well, we'll pay you what you're worth. Maybe even extra to get you over here. Sure. So you're going to see a division of where now you're getting a lot of name guys. It's funny. I just had a conversation at the airport with a fan. He walked up. He's all, I watched the UFC. He goes, but I don't know who anybody is anymore. In fact, actually, and he brought it up to me. He goes, hey, this Bellator is interesting. And now I see that Chael Sonnen's over there, and started naming names of guys that he did recognize. He goes, I'm actually going to start tuning into that now. I started watching that, the Tito fight that happened in New York. And I'm like looking at him and that's when it dawned on me. I'm like, oh, this is what's starting to happen.
Shifting sands. It's good for the fighters. It's good for the fans as well. That's it. If they open their eyes to more promotions,
phenomenal for fighters.
Yeah, really good, really good.
Yeah, it's and it's starting to happen more and more now with Bellator too. You know, there was for the longest time, it was if there was a recognizable name, it was an older veteran who maybe was past their prime, that sort of thing. And then they started signing one. I'm trying to think. Was Benson Henderson kind of their first guy who was still like,
I think so.
Younger.
'Cause he was before Phil and
former champion.
Yeah, well, Roy McDonald was the one that they've signed coming off a win.
Yes,
Benson Henderson came and he came off a loss.
Right, but a former champion.
And also relevant still an
young,
absolute badass.
Yeah,
an awesome fighter and willing to fight when he took on Brandon Thatch up at welterweight and finished him in the third round, and then willing to fight at lightweight or welterweight. So yeah.
Then Larkin. Matt Mitrione was another one.
Ryan Bader.
Ryan Bader. Phil
one.
Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's Frank Mir.
Yeah, exactly. One sat right in front of us. There we go.
Yeah. You know what I try to do with that when we do it, because it's kind of awkward talking about it. I always I bring him in, but I name a few other names first so that it's not too much. You know what I mean? It's not too like it's not. It allows for a little sense of humility. You know what I mean, Frank? We're going to name a few other names, and then of course Frank, as opposed to just saying what we all know, which is the franchise.
Yeah, there we
is
go.
Sitting right here.
The machine's
we don't need
there. There
we
go.
Yeah, we don't need that.
But
no, that's seriously, much like what I was just saying, though, about the middleweight division. Frank and I have talked about this previously, but the heavyweight title in Bellator is vacant right now.
Yes.
And Frank's coming in at a great time because you've got 6 roughly names who are not only immediate contenders for this title, but are also recognizable names to fans, like Mitrione. Even Chet Congo is over there now. Fedor's fighting.
Roy Nelson's there now.
Roy Nelson. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that's Friday night. Let's cheer on Onna. I believe her opponent is making her Bellator debut. Yeah, pull that up just real quick there, Travis, over there where Onna is. 1-0. Her opponent, Lisa Blaine, and I think this is Lisa's Bellator debut. Looks like she's gonna have a 2-inch height advantage on Onna.
Any history on Lisa?
Angelo told me she's a striker. She's kind of a knockout. A knockout machine. I mean, she could be 1-0, but I think it's probably on paper is going to look like a striking showcase. So that might be where my mousetrap would come in. Lisa Blaine ain't gonna have any preparation for this.
She ain't ready for that.
She ain't gonna be ready for that. So all right, well, we'll be cheering them on Friday night. What else? So, also, just to take this back to comedy for a second on a sad note, but my friend Ralphie May passed away, and I don't know how often Ralphie got to the UK. Are you very familiar with him at all?
Do you know what? The comedy world's and community is small, very small.
Yeah.
And. Yeah, when he passed away, I never worked with him. I'd never seen his stuff before.
Yeah.
But even a lot of people in the UK that travelled back and forth or that worked with him, loads of messages came up. He was So and that's the sort of stuff they were saying wasn't just about his comedy, about what he was like as a person.
He really was. I just to put the picture in the frame. I found out about this. We were driving out to Cal Jam, the Foo Fighters concert they were putting on this past weekend in San Bernardino, and we're going out there camping for the weekend and everything, so I'm on my way out there. Ralphie has been doing a residency here in Las Vegas at Harrah's all year long, and in fact, Frank and I, at the beginning of the summer, went to the show. We did a podcast with Ralphie in his dressing room. That's up on our Patreon page at phoneboothfighting.com if you haven't checked it out yet. Video of it as well. And I was really happy about that because I always like it when I can introduce a really good friend of mine to another really good friend of mine, and Frank was a fan of his. When we found out I knew him, that, he's like, I love his comedy stuff. So I was really excited that we got a chance to do that, and it didn't disappoint. I mean, I could tell you hit it off and everything. And
very smart guy, well thought out of things. And
I had known Ralphie. I was thinking about this after the news, like, I've probably known him better part of 15 years. And the way that I met him was interesting. I was not yet working in stand-up comedy. I was in radio. And I was in Dallas, and I normally did a nighttime show, talk radio show. But this particular week, I was filling in for the morning guy. And I don't know if you have this horror in the UK, but over here, the wacky morning zoo radio guys.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm this guy, wacky guy. Good morning. Good morning. Headed out to work. Hump day Wednesday for you. We're going to have traffic coming up. Traffic and weather. You know, that whole awful goofy sound effects.
Yeah, we got them. We got them.
I'm not that guy. And so the program director, the boss, was like already on my ass about like, don't get on there and just do your whole pontificating, like, calm guy talk. Like, really wake them up, get them ready to go to work, So I'm already thinking this is going to be rough. Anyway, Ralphie was booked as a guest, and I didn't know him. It's just that a lot of the comics, would come in and do radio. So whatever comic was at our local improv would come in and do a radio spot. So he came in one morning, met him, had a great interview with him and everything, and we just started talking. And I said, "Yeah, I'm actually not the normal morning guy. I'm having to do this all week." And he said, "Oh," he goes, "That's good." He goes, "Well, do you want me to come back in?" He's like, "I'll co-host with you if you want." I was like, not that I don't want you to, sure, but I mean, you understand we're starting at 5:30 in the morning and the show lasts 4 hours. He's like, "Yeah, no problem, man." And so he was doing a whole week at the Improv, 2 shows a night, 3 shows a night on Friday and Saturday. And after, working until midnight the night before, comes back in the next day and just did the whole show with me. And he was great. I mean, I could instantly tell. I was like, oh, man, we could have a show, like if he wanted to get into radio or something, So we met that way. We got to be really good friends and, just countless experiences and interactions over the years. But he really got to be a good, close friend because in addition to being a super funny guy, he really was like one of the most genuine people I'd ever met in entertainment. And one thing that happens, and, I'm sure you guys have had this experience as well, but like in the world of entertainment, you make friendships, but a lot of times they're kind of acquaintances because everybody's so busy. Everybody's traveling, touring all the time, And so there are people that you check in with and you consider them friends, but it's not like you can hang out with them every week. And then there are a few that for whatever reason you just really get a close friendship with. And that was the case with him. And it really hit home once I found out he passed away because I was just like, this sucks. Like, this is heavy. And all those, thoughts and memories just come rushing back. And now, once I started working as a comedian, I gained a whole new appreciation for him because he is a guy that I would go see 5-6 nights in a row when he was when he would come through town. And his show, first of all, his show was long. He would do a headlining set that would go 90 minutes at least. And then the material from night to night would be 65% different, a different show. He was very prolific. And he always said, he's like, I try to keep my ticket prices down because he had a real working class crowd, like a blue collar crowd. And he's like, this money means something. Like, they've planned for this. This is half the entertainment budget maybe for the whole month to come out and see me. So he kept the ticket prices low. He always gave them a long show. And then I also remember this. He would always close the show and he would go, okay, ladies and gentlemen, just let you know that, I'm only supposed to be on for an hour. I wanted to give you extra long show. He goes, but because I do an extra long show, the wait staff has to stay extra long. So he's, and he would say, he's got his merchandise out in the hallway and everything, T-shirts, CDs. But he would say, take care of them. And if it's a difference between buying something from me and taking care of your waitress or your bartender, please tip them because they have been here an extra long. We'll take a picture together outside. There's no charge for that. Like just kind of putting
nice
them
touch.
First.
Nice touch.
And he
solid guy.
Yeah, and and that's how he could sell out. He had like fans that really connected with him on that level. Now, if you don't know Ralphie, you've never seen, he's a ton of Netflix specials and stuff like that, but all of Ralphie's life, he was morbidly obese. And when I say, I mean, Frank, when you and I saw him at the beginning of the summer, he might have weighed 400 pounds.
No, I remember even looking at him and not even knowing somebody besides on camera and he was your friend and we're going there, almost a sense of concern. I'm like, wow, his lips are a little bluish, like obviously being heavy, type 2 diabetes, but I'm like, I don't think he's getting enough oxygen. Like I remember asking him, like, hey man, is he okay? Like, you know, like, he doesn't look good. You know what I mean?
He definitely looked, as I was obviously used to seeing him that large, but something looked worse about him. Yes, at the beginning of the summer, and you could just, like you said, you could see it in the kind of the skin color and everything. And he's 2 years younger than me. But when by the time you get into your 40s, you can't just go, if you're that big, you can't just go on life alone anymore. I mean, it's going to catch up to you. And the thing is, I had seen over the years too, where it took a lot of times everything he had to do the shows. In fact, when you and I saw him, Frank, at the beginning of the summer, he had a stool up there and he sat down for a lot of the show. He only started doing that fairly recently. Most of the years I ever saw him, he stood for the whole, and you're talking hours and hours. But there were other times where, like for example, this goes years back, where we'd make dinner plans or something before the show. So like 5 o'clock in the evening, and I'd get a call or a text from his then wife, and she would say, hey, it's Lana from Ralphie's phone, and he's having a hard time getting out of bed, and he's got the show and everything. So it's now by the time you saw him on the show, you would know there was any problem. I mean, he came alive, but you came to realize as you got to know him, that might be all the energy he's got, is those 4 hours a day, and everything else is just in preparation for that.
That's sad as well.
And I have found, and just finding out, talking to people that were involved, I was in touch with his road manager that you and I had met at the beginning of the summer after all this happened, and he was telling me that this happened last Thursday night, or a week ago, Thursday night now. And he had done his show at Harrah's and had a meet and greet scheduled after the show and did the meet and greet. And keep in mind, he would be dead like an hour later. And he did the meet and greet. Fans came in, and apparently, if you remember the dressing room, that we went down a long ramp to get to the dressing room. So I guess he was not able to even have the energy to get up that ramp.
Well, and for people that don't know, wasn't he already suffer from pneumonia for the last 4 weeks?
Yeah, he had been fighting pneumonia for.
That's the thing when people look at him, and after meeting him and hearing more stories from Richard, it's like, oh, you see someone that heavy, you think, oh, you're just a lazy fuck. I'm like, no, this guy actually works really, really hard.
Yeah.
He just, obviously, his appetite control and exercising on the side's not there. But as far as work ethic, no. I mean, if that says anything in itself, the day you're dying within a couple hours with pneumonia, you work all week long. And then how many guys
do the extra?
Come on, man. I've had the cold before and a flu where I'm like, I really don't want to fucking meet people right now. It's not that you can't, but you also have to put this in. It's not just showing up to work for an hour. You guys know, now I have to turn on my personality. You're miserable, you don't feel good, but you still got to smile and be nice and be genuine to your fans.
Some of those pictures have been posted online, too, of his final meet and greet, and he's smiling. He doesn't look good.
Yeah,
I mean, you can see he doesn't look healthy, but he's smiling. And and you're right. He, of all the years that I knew him, he was one of the hardest working guys I ever knew. He had a house in L.A., he had a house in Nashville. And his and a family. He had 2 young kids, and that's the real tragedy of this. But he toured a lot of times by bus when he could. He had his own tour bus. But the theory was he could have those 2 houses and kind of split the country. But he's working every week out of every year, multiple shows a night, working that hard and doing the media. That radio, that wasn't just me. I mean, he's up early in the morning doing all the radio spots, doing all the TV spots.
You don't get, in comedy especially, you do not get to the level where your residency in a Las Vegas comedy club without the work. You don't get away with it. That's one of the beauties about comedy. Very, very rarely do you get to the very top level unless you work hard You do all the extras, and you put that ethic behind everything that you do. Physically, you might not have had it there, but to be the comic he is and to get the response from what I saw off other comedians, which is always a real gauge of where he sits in the hearts and minds of his peers. There was more than one story about the way that he would speak to people that were opening from him, bump up their pay with his if he felt they were underpaid.
I know really?
This
that's huge.
This is not just one or two stories on my. I've never met the guy, and this is English comics talking about. They might have worked with him once or twice, but he made the effort with another one. The first night he worked with him, and I wish I could remember the comedian's name, but first night he worked with him, the comedian just his shirt was old. So he went and bought him a load of new shirts. He said, "Look, you got the material, you got the look. We just need to smarten you up, and you can do this. You can go places." So he bought him a load of new shirts, gave him a comedy wardrobe, and that's the difference. That is obviously a great comedian, but an even better human being as far as the people he's touched and the response. That obviously very, very sad his death, but that reach and that echoed through my time. I was flicking through it. I'd never worked with this comedian before, but again and again, people, those sort of stories.
Yeah, what he would do, it's interesting Bryan talks about that, because what he would do is, he knew what was, he was a comedy veteran, and he knew what was right and wrong. And what he would do is, he would go, there's very few comedians who carried enough weight, literally and figuratively, but, carried enough influence to go to a club owner and go, hey, how about you do this or do that when it involves somebody else. But what he'd do is, if he knew that there was a comedian that was being underpaid, he would either kick in on his own, or he would go to the club and go, I heard what he's making. You think that's right? Club owner knew it wasn't right, Oh yeah, that must be an oversight. I'll handle that. Good. Okay. Yeah. I knew you would. But yeah, he was that kind of guy, and it just, and this is public, so I'm not, talking out of school, but he married a female comedian that he was on. Ralphie came in second on one of the early seasons of Last Comic Standing. And Lana was on the show as well, and they had already been dating. They met in the comedy world, and they were together for a long time, and they had the 2 kids and everything, and they toured together.
Have I seen
his wife?
No.
They don't look like they should have been together.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm just putting it out there now. He'd laugh too.
He'd tell you he married up.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. I remember a couple skits he did where I'm looking like, that's not really his wife.
Yeah.
I click on them like, good for him, this motherfucker.
Yeah, and so they had split up in the last couple of years. They were going through, and this was all, like I said, publicly documented. But they were going through a pretty nasty divorce battle and all that sort of thing. And I think that really had a huge effect on him too. He and I had kind of talked about that once he had moved out here to Vegas for the residency, because of the 2 young kids and all that kind of stuff. And it just, and that kind of stress, that will physically affect a healthy person, let alone somebody who's already got health issues. And
wow.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. And I guess the last night of his life, there he is with the family. The last night of his life, he was staying at Gabe Lopez, that was the opener that we met. And they'd finished the show, and it's about midnight or where he finishes up the meet and greet, and they went through a drive-through, got some food. He went back to the house and went back to his room, and they didn't bother him till like 1 in the afternoon the next day, because he typically would sleep until noon or so. And said when they found him, it looked like he had just been sitting on the edge of the bed and just had a massive heart attack and died, just fell over on his side.
That's sad.
And that was it. 45 years old.
Well, the strain that his body had on him for that long, for the weight, and then
that lifestyle.
and he had the pneumonia, then the fact that his own work ethic.
Yeah.
Had he probably taken a week off from work and just stayed at the hospital or did whatever it took to cure that, who knows, hindsight, but sometimes guys are too tough for their own good.
I had hoped that, I'd actually hoped that him being in Las Vegas would actually, where you don't think of coming to Las Vegas and it being less stressful, but in terms of not having to travel all the time, at least you're in one place and now people are coming to see you for the residency. But even with that, when they would have a week off here and there, he wasn't taking that week off. If you remember or not, but when we were sitting in the dressing room, He was asking his crew. He said, "No,
I forgot what we were going to do to try to get together about something.
we wanted to go shooting.
Yeah,
he wanted to go shooting.
That's right.
And God, I tell you what, this killed me a couple days ago. I'll tell you this in a second about that. But we were talking about when to do it, and they actually had 2 weeks where the Righteous Brothers or somebody like that were coming in the showroom in Vegas, but he had it booked to go somewhere else. I mean, it's like he wasn't even taking the time off.
Wow.
But I'll tell you what we were working on, a couple of things. One, I was going to try to get him to come out to the benefit that we did for the Vegas shooting victims. Not even to just do comedy, but maybe just to even make an appearance. But the other thing that I had been working on is he wanted to go shooting with us because gun talk. This is gonna surprise you, Brian, but gun talk broke out with Frank when
You're
we were
kidding.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there was
And Ralphie
discussion
was
of
a good old
firearms.
Southern boy. So.
Yeah, so he
Okay.
wanted to go shoot guns, and Blues Traveler is coming back in a couple of weeks, the beginning of November, and their frontman John Popper is a big gun guy.
More
So
guns than anybody.
they all wanted to go. The great part was everybody wanted to go shooting, and they're all three large men. And I thought, oh, this would be awesome. We get these three guys together, go shooting. So I actually had a legal pad where I just had scribbled some notes and about upcoming guests we're going for and stuff like that. And damned if just a couple of days ago I didn't just flip to it because I'm ready to, mark off other stuff, and his name's right there. I'm like,
dude.
God damn it.
Ouch.
So anyway, that's
Rest in peace,
I don't
my
mean to.
friend.
Yeah, I don't
Rest
mean to
in
bring it
peace.
down, but it's like I always like to think that the measure of the life you lived is how much somebody can say about you after you're gone. And honestly, I could tell you stories for hours. So I feel like that's you win if you can do that.
I agree.
As
I
opposed
agree.
to the kind of person like they die, and even if it's kind of a shock, you're like, oh well, there you go. Yeah, that was him.
I agree. Yeah, that's the mark. And like I said, just the response from UK comics.
Yeah, right.
That and it is a great community. It's a very tight community, the comedians community. But all those stories, it wasn't just about his comedy.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sad loss.
On that note, that's something that actually goes through my mind. And actually, being in England a couple of weeks back with the wife, we went to the Tower of London. Several places we went.
Yeah.
Were you trying to lock her in the top? Were you seeing if they were still?
I was letting her know, see what happens when
Yeah.
a disobedient wife. That's right. I'm like, this Henry guy had it figured out. But I was thinking that, like, I'm watching through and you're reading about these people that now, hundreds of years later, here I'm just some guy walking through and there's all these thousands and millions of tourists. I'm like, what is that like to live a life that even hundreds of years later, people read about you? Good, bad, back and forth, but you existed. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, to me, always just blows my mind.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. And we're in London, especially because we've got such a small city with so much history. Every single corner you turn, there's something and a story you can tell about someone. So
yeah,
it's cool.
We were looking through there, and they had things engraved in the walls, different prisoners there, putting things in it. I'm just sitting there looking. I'm like, wow, this was somebody's life, right?
This happened. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I told you this. Like, we talk about phobias, right? Do you know I have very few things that bother me.
Nothing scares me. You know that, don't you? You know I don't. You know I don't get scared.
I'm not quite as solid as you, there,
I don't
Buttercup.
get scared. Go carry on.
But I have a hard time, like, the wife likes antiquing, going to those antique shops. And I thought that'd be a cool thing. But I remember the first time I went into one and I seen pictures and I'm like, stop. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. This is all, like, that's a real person's family right there. And like, yeah. I'm like, holy fuck, man. Like, I'm turning things down in the thing. I can't walk
Can't
through.
see them staring at you.
No, man. I'm like, this is someone's life.
They're ghosts.
Like, someone
mate,
sat there on a couch and that's their family. And, like, there's so many stories. And now it's in some antique shop just sitting on a shelf. I'm like, God, this is bothering the fuck out of me, man. Like, it really did. Like I left the shop. I'm like, and my wife's like, look at me. She's like, you are the least superstitious. I'm like, I'm not being, I don't know.
I'm not looking in them eyes. But also, it's the way the old photos used to be taken. Because they're just, there's no smile. It's not like the selfies now that we've got going on. Can you imagine that in the future as well? If mobile phones, you pick one up and there's a selfie of Frank and Mrs. Meir outside the Tower of London.
I live long enough to see all the consequences of the social media that's occurring right now. Because because it isn't like you and I. We can tell our kids, like, well, don't do that because guess what? That caught up to me. It's like a pager was a big deal when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
So now you sit there and when the mistakes that I made as a kid.
they're there forever.
They're only rumors. Like I can go to a meeting with friends and go, "Hey man, I remember this one time," and like telling a story is one thing. But sitting there and going, "Hey, you want to see your grandmother?" Boom, right there. You know? You're like, "Oh shit, grandma! Who is that? Who are they? What were you?" You know what I mean? Like, and like people are immortalizing all their fucking crazy youth, and they're not going to realize that, hey, man, in 30 years from now, you're not going to be as proud of these moments as you think you are.
That's what I love, though. I get exactly what you're saying because like, you say, "So, mummy, dad, how did you meet?" Like, well, let's flick back through my Facebook post.
Exactly.
You flick all the way around. Daddy spent a lot of time writing words on his drunk friends' heads, didn't he? That's a lot of things. Humping a lot of men. You sure you married the man? There you go.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
But yeah, it will go on. It's going to be the consequences. Yeah, going to be
finding grandma's picture. You know,
oh, dude.
I mean, now it's like, oh, I have a newspaper clipping of grandpa, but it'll be of a great moment or something. Like now, it's just like, here's grandpa when he got drunk and his friend shoved a car up his ass.
Yeah, and here's the entire police report.
That's right.
Still archived.
That's right. Oh,
that's true.
Dear.
Well, speaking of reckless youth, I teased this a little while ago about the music festival I was on my way to, but I got to share a story about this because a couple of reasons. One, I mean, obviously, tragically, we just had the big mass shooting here, and I was telling Frank that I was on my way to this concert, you know, and we were actually talking about security concerns and how that was going to work and everything. So the Foo Fighters put on a concert called Cal Jam in San Bernardino at some campgrounds last weekend. And this drew, I mean, I didn't look up the actual number of people that were there, but just by my own guesstimation, because there was not a spot to be had. Which
is surprising, because I would have thought when you told me you were still going there, I'm like, I wonder how many people are going to freak out, because right now the topic is, you know, I mean, now people talk about gun control, but being in an open area, it's like if you're in a concert hall, people have to go through security. Yeah. Right? You know, they have, I mean, the thing that just happened in Manchester a couple of months ago. Yep. He actually got stopped trying to get in because it's an enclosed area, and then obviously there was tragedy outside with the explosion and whatnot. But bad guys can't just get in very easily with a rifle and you know and hold up in a spot, tag people away and camp out. Whereas where you're going, it's a situation that basically everybody was just in here in Vegas. I'm like, wow, I wonder if people are going to freak out going, well, how the hell do you guys control this?
Yeah, everybody was packed in together, you know, and I mean, I'm just by my eyeball guesstimation, I mean, maybe 60, 70,000 people. I mean, it was a lot.
Was there a tree line nearby?
No, I mean, I was thinking that. I mean, I was actually kind of looking around going, okay, well, you know, there's some mountains off in the distance, but there wasn't really like an immediate threat of something like that. But at the same time, there is a, you know, it's kind of like, you know, after 9/11, everybody thinks about flying differently. And I always reference this after the Station fire, that club up on the East Coast that Great White was playing at that caught on fire. It was not up to code, and a bunch of people got trapped in it and died.
Picture I've ever seen all the people.
Yeah. I mean, it. You know, after that, it didn't stop me from going to shows, but after that, anytime I'm in a room like that, I always go, okay, there's the exit, there's the emergency exit, or this one's closer to us, make a quick mental note. And I did think about that. I mean, while we're out there, I'm like, okay, now we're all packed in here together, so just quick mental note, what's the quickest way out of here and stuff like that. But I tell you what, they had run this thing so smoothly. First of all, we were camping. I'd never camped before, by the way. This is my one and only camping experience. And my girlfriend wanted to do this. So we go out there, we roll in there on Friday night. The music festival's all day Saturday. So we set up our
tent, sleeping bag and everything, huh?
Yeah. We set up our whole like campground and everything.
Did you have one of those tents that just comes up, pops up?
All right. So
has Jen been camping before?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had like a mattress underneath. You brought like a
yes, sort of. So here's what we did. There were two options. You could have a deal where you could roll your RV in there, like Cowboy Cerrone would do. Or you had what they call car camping, which was a space that was just big enough for a car and then a tent. Now, we didn't realize it was going to be big enough for both, so we actually literally camped in the car. But we had it's an SUV. We put the seats down. We had air mattress and all that, so it was pretty nice. Next time, we will go with the little pup tent because we realized there was enough room for it. But we get set up. They thoroughly search the car when you pull in.
Really? They went through everybody's car?
Yes. I mean, it took a while, but yeah, they went through.
How long do you think they spent on each vehicle?
On ours, 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I mean, they pulled things
That's
out.
impressive.
They looked under seats. They opened. They even found, like, Jennifer had a prescription for something, and they're like, okay, can we see your ID to match the name with the bottle and stuff
really?
like that? Yeah. So they were taking it very, very seriously, and it felt, that felt good. I mean, it's like this. I'm actually not pissed about this.
Yeah.
Like, this is good because everybody's being thoroughly, and then it also helped too that once you got in, everybody was very cool. Everybody was like very cooperative and communal and everything. Now the communal part of it is where this gets interesting. So I had seen the promos that Dave Grohl had done for this, saying he was putting on this big concert. And they really did. I mean, it was an all-day. There must have been, 12, 14 bands total playing it, because they had a big stage and then they had 2 smaller stages. And he was saying in the months leading up to it when they announced it, oh, yeah, there's going to be camping out there. We're going to camp out there. We're going to have a good time. And you're kind of like, okay. Or maybe, are you really going to do that? Or the Foo Fighters really going to be camping out there all weekend? They really were camping out there all weekend. Now, they had like a VIP area where they were kind of cordoned off and they're out there camping. But it was amazing, like kind of how in the mix they were with everybody. So the night before, not only did they have all the bands playing, it was them, Queens of the Stone Age, Liam Gallagher from Oasis.
Oh, cool, because he came on stage, they'd come together.
Oh, he played a set.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
he
he
did
came
play,
on with
I got a good
Come
story
Together.
about
Oh,
that.
nice, go on.
But he did his own set, and then a bunch of other bands. But they had carnival rides, like all these rides you could ride. They had a recording studio where you could go in, spontaneously make your own record, and come out with a little vinyl 45.
That's pretty cool.
On. So very interactive for a couple of days. So the night before, we get our campsite all set up, and we're like, okay, what do you want to go do? We'll go ride some rides. And so we're in line for one of these thrill rides. And I looked behind us, and I was like, oh, wow, there's this Taylor Hawkins. He's the drummer in Foo Fighters. He's just in line with us to ride the ride. And I told Jennifer, look over there. And she's like, wow, and she's a good girlfriend to have, because she doesn't get starstruck and stuff like that. But she does love her some Dave Grohl. And she said, all right. She goes, well, I'm telling you now, if we see Dave Grohl, I do need to take a picture.
Okay.
Okay. So we camp out. So the next day, they also have a water slide there on the campgrounds. And so the next day, before the concert starts, I think the first band's going to start at noon. We say, hey, let's go get on that water slide. That'd be fun. Let's go down that water slide once. So we go over there, and it's like 10 in the morning. And
10 in the morning, you're doing a water slide at a festival.
Yeah, because the music's going to start at noon, so we got to get in our spot. So we're getting in line for the water slide. And I'm down at the base of the water slide, right? And there's the restrooms are down there. And she says, "Hey, I'm gonna stop use the restroom before we go get in line, because it was a long line." She goes in the women's room. I'm outside the women's room waiting for her at the base of the water slide. Wearing an Ace Frehley T-shirt, the guitar player in Kiss, the original guitar player. And she goes in the women's room, and about 2 minutes later, down the water slide comes Dave Grohl.
Oh, no.
He hits the pool. He gets out of the pool. People are freaking out. He walks right by me. He sees my Ace Frehley T-shirt, and he goes, "Rad, dude," and gives me a high five. Fellow Kiss fan, we had that Kiss moment. He gets in a golf cart, and off he goes.
Oh, mate.
And then she comes out of the bathroom.
Did you tell her?
Yeah, because everybody was like, oh my God, can you, they're showing each other their pictures and stuff. Can you believe that?
That's cool.
And she walks out, and before I have a chance to even say what happened, you hear some guy go, "Whoa, not every day you get to go down a water slide with Dave Grohl." She's just like, fuck.
Bad time to need a piss, eh? That's not...
Yeah. So great shows, cool bands playing, and so Liam Gallagher, the frontman in Oasis, does a solo set. And just to put in perspective, you've heard of Oasis, right, Frank?
Mm-hmm.
Frank's musical. It's interesting because it's always I like to turn Frank on to different kinds of music and stuff because it's the one. For being as well-rounded and educated guy as you are, it's one
music I'm very very bad at.
Yeah, if
you want to play that song, in a bar where people go, "Who played this?" I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know." But if you put a song on, like we do that, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've heard that before."
Yeah. If I'm angry at your parents for anything, it's this. It's
music.
Just the
lack of
attention.
Yeah.
But
okay, so let's go back and be honest. I have no idea who the fuck Oasis.
Okay. Do you really not know?
I have no clue. I just want to be that asshole that always doesn't know. People go, "Hey, so and so, I never heard of them." I'm like, "You know who the fuck that is?" I'm like, okay. Hold on, here's one for you. I know who Dave Grohl is.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That's good.
That's good.
He's the guy that broke his leg on stage and kept on singing.
That's right.
That's right.
See?
And
so I'm not full of shit.
Yeah, YouTube Oasis real quick for me, Travis. By the way, quick side note, I forgot to mention, the Foo Fighters also had their own Foo Fighters rock and roll museum set up in this big tent.
Nice.
So it had like all this memorabilia from their career, including the giant throne that he was having to sit in when his leg was broken.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. They had a lot of cool memorabilia. Okay, so go over to hit Wonderwall there, Travis.
Is this probably the most popular song?
Yep, I would say so. And to
Are
put
they an
this,
English band? Is that what?
Yes.
Potentially, since the Beatles, they're probably the biggest English band.
Okay, I've heard their songs. I had to have.
Yeah, do we have some volume there? Or does the volume need to come up on the computer there?
Turns it on. It's part of the video. It's part of the video.
Is
we're good.
the audio...
It's on. It's just it does a
Oh, there we
little
go. Got it.
record
Yeah, we got
play
it.
thing.
See if Frank has heard Wonderwall here. Nothing yet. No sign of
Sounds
recognition
all
yet. Yeah.
It sounds right.
Yeah, right.
They're playing it right.
Right.
No, I mean, it sounds like something I've heard before.
Yeah. Okay. The vocals are going to kick in here in a second. This may be where you have a sign of recognition. Here we go.
Today
is
gonna be the day that we're gonna throw it back to you.
All right. Good. Yeah. Yeah. So and Brian's.
Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've heard this thing for a long time.
Oh,
Okay.
so awesome band.
And so Brian just said it. I mean, and this band was massively popular worldwide, but in England, a stadium act.
Oh, this is the band me and my brother grew up. The first ever band I went to go and see in a stadium was Oasis. They're the bad boys coming through. They're called Britpop. It was a big era of music like Blur, Pulp, and Oasis was at the top. They were two brothers. They hate each other. They play amazing music. They've got a crazy story behind them. They're from Manchester, and they're awesome.
Yeah,
So
they're
they hate each other?
Yeah,
They
they
hate
hated
each
each other while they were in the band, and they really hate each other even more now. Like to the point they won't speak. It's they tour separately, all this sort of thing, and they're definitely curmudgeonly. Liam Gallagher's set was he was annoyed the entire. I could see that he was arguing with the sound guy off to the side of the stage the whole set, and at the end,
he's got to argue with somebody. It's not even a
Exactly.
sound guy. They bring that guy along.
Yeah.
He's on tour with him. I'm the guy you're going to argue with for the entire tour.
Because at the end of the set, by the way, Travis, while we're talking, look up on YouTube Liam Gallagher Come Together Cal Jam. And somebody's going to have a fan film clip of this, what they did.
They've got a good video. I've watched it. So, yeah,
Okay,
Foo Fighters.
Cal Jam Come Together.
Yeah.
And so they'll play it. Yeah, I'll tell you when. So he's arguing with the sound guy the whole set, his set, and he was third from the last act. And at the end of it, he says, he says, thanks to the audience. Just pause it for a second. He said, thanks for your patience. And points at the microphone and he says, you have been absolutely useless, meaning the sound guy, and tells him to fuck off and throws the mic. So fast forward to the Foo Fighters.
Was there something wrong with the...
Not that I could tell. I think he was having trouble hearing himself.
He's
like
very well known for being brash and just being fair. He's funny. He's a great character.
Yeah.
But he's always in an argument with somebody. He'll start a fight with anybody anytime.
Yeah, and it was really... It was weird because it didn't really fit with the rest of the festival was very kind
Full of love.
hippie, communal, all the bands helping each other out, everything. So Queens of the Stone Age goes on. Then the Foo Fighters headline. I'd never seen the Foo Fighters live. I'm so old. I've seen Dave Grohl when he was in Nirvana live, but I have not seen the Foo Fighters.
I saw the Foo Fighters at the Isle of Wight festival, and I've got a little anti-Foo Fighters thing now because I was stood there enjoying the festival, and a 6'8" bloke pissed on me behind me while I was watching. So
Literally pissed. This is not English vernacular.
No, not at all. So I was stood there with my girlfriend at the time, and we were bopping away, as we would say in the UK, and suddenly I felt like a hot leg. And
well, I was going to say 6'8".
He was massive.
His penis might have been about level with your head.
It wasn't massive. But I turned around and he was just dick out pissing on me in the Foo Fighters concert. So we just went back to our tent. I was so pissed off, and I've never been to Foo Fighters live again. So
I think that move's called the UK whiz bar.
Oh. I think we need 4 in the
fourth guy coming up now.
Very nice.
We've got a full show. I'll host, and then we'll just roll it.
Yeah, I like it.
A callback.
So that was a callback. So one of the surprise elements of the Foo Fighters set is that about 3/4 of the way through the show, we're standing there, and Jennifer goes, "Look, is that helicopter landing here?" There's like this black helicopter hovering over the crowd, and it did appear to be going lower and lower and lower. Helicopter lands on the field just to the side of the audience, and Joe Perry from Aerosmith jumps out of the helicopter.
How do you make an entrance? I've got to say, that's quite a brave move to make with all that's gone on with music festival, to have a helicopter hover over a crowd.
Yeah, that's true.
If Joe Perry gets out, I'm all good with that.
He got out, put on a guitar, he played an Aerosmith song, Walk the Line, and then they played Come Together by the Beatles. They brought Liam Gallagher out to sing it. Now, the connection here is that Aerosmith back in the 70s covered the song Come Together. And Liam, of course, you know, sounds like John Lennon. That's great.
That's the band that most influenced him. So
voice to sing it. So let's see if Frank knows "Come Together" by the Beatles. Let's roll this here. A little volume.
Luke Barnett's walkout song.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, he does walk out to this. So there's Liam Gallagher in his hoodie there.
That's a tune, right? That's a tune.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now look at old Joe Perry. How old do you think Joe Perry is, Frank? The guy in the white shirt playing guitar.
He's about 65 now, right?
Yeah. He's probably closer to 70.
But what they used to be called, is it the Heroin? The Toxic Twins, weren't they?
The Toxic Twins. Him and Steve Perry.
The fact that him and Steve Perry are still rolling.
I mean, Steven Tyler. Steve Perry was the singer in Journey,
But the fact that they're still rolling after the amount of heroin that they consumed on their early days.
Yeah. Now, he blew the lyric right there. He wasn't supposed to go to the chorus. So now he's picking up the lyric sheet.
There we go.
He's just going to read off of it.
This is the equivalent of a comedian looking at his hand on what jokes he's got to do next. But slightly more obvious.
And then I think the whole thing really falls apart when he picks the drunk girl out of the crowd to sing the second chorus. That wasn't a good move.
What a if you just look at that as a beautiful gathering of musicians and icons in music, it looks amazing. Yeah. But Liam Gallagher's trashed it.
Now, to give you an idea, I might have been standing next to the person filming this. That's how close we were. But in order to get that spot, we had to stand for probably 6 hours straight.
You have to time. That's why I was getting peed on. That's why I'm getting peed on. That's exactly why. I should feel sorry for the bloke. He earned that spot, and I just got in the firing line. It's my misfortune.
Yeah, he sure did. I think he's going out to get the drunk chick now. Yeah.
He's off his face there. Look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, I know this is Liam Gallagher's rap, you know, to sort of be the malcontent, but I was kind of like
this. I almost need this to stop because I love the Beatles so much that him butchering this.
You don't want to see it blown right here. Yeah. Look at this chick, Frank. She didn't know the words either. Uh-oh.
Oh, God. Oh, God, make it stop, Travis. I'll pay you good money to make this stop. Right. Oh, thank goodness.
All right, you know what? Let's cleanse our palate real quick before we move on. Pull up Foo Fighters' Walk the Line.
So Liam Gallagher's just a dick.
Yeah.
That's what I've gathered so far from my
Yeah.
classroom work today.
But he's our dick, mate. He's our dick from the UK. That's what he is.
Cal Jam walked the line. And this, I mean, as the elder statesman here in the phone booth fighting bunker, I liked, that top one's good. I appreciate it when an old geezer can get up and just show everybody how it's done, right? I mean, this guy is 70 years old. He's just landed in a helicopter. And roll a little bit of this, Travis. Let me have the old guys show you how it's done. Yeah, draw the line. I said walk the line.
"65 years old."
Yeah.
Dude.
Playing the slide guitar there. You ever heard this song, Frank? Kind of an Aerosmith classic.
I don't know if I have, to be honest with you. No, what's going on that's so impressive?
So right now he's just rocking the rhythm. But you gotta wait. You wait for the magic
Till he does his solo. And see how that slide is on his pinky finger? He's got a piece of like a
porcelain
like
or plastic. So you slide up and has like a blues style of playing.
Look up at the screen there, and when they show a close-up of him, you'll be able to see it better. Slide guitar is kind of a specialized style of blues guitar playing. I think the solo's coming up here.
It's like he's forgotten the words.
Yeah. Here we go.
Might be lost a bit in the mix there, but he is quality. He's one of the iconic guitarists from that era.
One of the great living classic rock guitar players,
amazing.
For sure.
Well, and what a beautiful era of rock he was coming up to with Slash and all those people. And, and they all look at. Well, he was before them, but they all look up to him as one of the real.
You know what's crazy about Aerosmith? If you think about this, they're one of the few bands where they have a whole career in the '70s, and then by the mid '80s, they've got their career is still going, so that their original fans now their kids are into them. It's like a multi-generational thing. You can go to an Aerosmith show and see old people. Probably now it's going on people's grandkids. You know, where just like they've always stayed relevant. Anyway, we had a great time out there at Cal Jam. And the only thing, I sent Frank a picture of this because I knew he would appreciate it. You did have to look very closely, but up at the top of the stage structure, they had armed security with binoculars, like looking out for any kind of aerial concerns and stuff like that. Yeah. But it was, I did see this in the paper, out of the 70,000, I mean, how many people they had there? Like 3 arrests. And for nothing. It wasn't even like for incidents, you know?
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was just, was very cool. All right, let's get into a meaty topic here, because Frank and I have not had a chance to talk about this. I worried that it would be an old topic because it started making the news probably a month ago. It got really, really hot, but it's still in the news. I'm talking about the national anthem protest, the fact that players are taking a knee in the NFL, some other sports as well, but it's primarily focused on the NFL. Something that was started by the quarterback Colin Kaepernick to protest tension between law enforcement and the black community, and other players started doing it. It got on Donald Trump's radar. I think that's when things really got kicked into high gear, because he started making it a political issue. And people are very divided over how they feel about this. Now, first of all, Frank, let's establish your position here. What do you think?
Don't agree with doing it.
Okay. Do you? I mean, just anything more to that as far as like, do you see? Like, you see what they're upset about, but this isn't the right way to do it,
Well,
or
no,
what?
I understand what people the grievance is being stated. I get it, but I think that it's aimed at the wrong individuals and the people that take it the most seriously are, some of our veterans and other patriots of our country. And I feel that there are many ways and many platforms on which to speak without insulting individuals in that form. And that's why, I'm very big about not doing things to the flag or doing things that can be
like burning a flag, stuff like that.
Just, look, man, someone's son, father, brother, or woman, at the same time now has died in the name of, of the U.S. government. And so, I mean, shit, just to insult that or to be, less than, respectful of that situation, I find hard for me to deal with. On the flip side, I realize that that's what it represents. We have the freedom of speech, and you can do whatever you want in this country. But then I use that both ways. And so my thought is if you want to go and take a knee and do what you do, I have no sympathy that Kaepernick is not able to get a job. In fact, I don't see why he can sue anybody for any collusion that the NFL is getting to keep him out. It's like we have moral clauses in almost any contract as an entertainer that you have. There's an aspect that if you go out and make us look bad as a company, we're going to fine you, fire you in some form. I mean, shit, I've had that with every, the UFC and now with the Bellator. If I start spouting off anti-Semitic or homophobic statements on my Twitter, I will find myself without work pretty quickly. And I think a lot of people that have jobs have to still deal with those same repercussions. And I think it's kind of funny that just because you think you're a superstar athlete, that you're not held accountable at the same time, that there's another guy signing your check. And if you do things that he doesn't like, you don't have a job.
Are you, Bryan? Are you familiar with this story? Has this made its way over to the UK?
There's,
I know you. I think you have the internet over there.
We've just about got
Yes.
it, along with our two sheep. I've seen it. I've seen the little clips of footballers taking a knee during the national anthem. I didn't really know. We don't really know what the reason why.
Yeah.
Or
there's probably a lot of things that we're doing right now. You don't really know the reason why. That probably falls into.
We'd like to ask you the reason why.
Sure.
There's the planet would like to know, but with the taking and what's the context in which they do it? So it's at a football game, and they play the national anthem, before it starts,
right? So and it's actually something relatively new that we're doing now in football games. They do it sometimes at big boxing fights. We don't really ever do it in the UFC.
Even just playing the national anthem. That's what he's talking about.
Okay.
And so before the sporting event starts, it's big in baseball. Baseball, they'll play the national anthem before the game. Everybody stands up. And, you're supposed to take your hat off. You show respect. It's, our national anthem. So what Kaepernick started doing last year is that while the anthem's being played, he takes a knee, which is pretty much the opposite. I mean, if you're doing the national anthem, I look over and I see someone sitting down talking and they don't realize what's going on. It's not considered, rude for someone to go, hey, man, do you not realize what's going on? Take your hat off, stand up, It's a sign of respect for the country.
Of course. Yes, it's difficult for me to weigh in on any of this because I'm not affected.
Do you guys have an equivalent of that over there?
So we Well, we don't.
Do you guys play a national anthem before football games?
No, not really, not before. So rugby we do. Rugby we always, no, we don't even play it then. We play something else. But we don't have that. But what I was about to say is it doesn't. I wouldn't feel comfortable commenting on whether it's right or wrong because I don't know whether he's personally. It's difficult for me to talk about it just because I don't know enough about it to actually give an educated sort of opinion.
This will surprise you. I have a few thoughts. One is in terms of just the concept of doing it. And understand, I should probably position this way first. It's not my way of protest because I like to use my words. I have a lot to say. And so if I am taking issue with you, I have a lot I want to say to you, and that's how I'm going to communicate that. If I do this, it's going to get a lot of attention. It's provocative, but there's also a good chance that a lot of people are not going to listen to what I have to say. Now, I have a lot to say. Some of these fellows tend not to be the most articulate. And so they may not have a lot to say. You know, they see that, and I'm not naming anybody in particular because I think from what I've heard of Colin Kaepernick, he sounds pretty articulate. But I'm stereotyping the dumb jock here. I'm just saying that, you know, I think a lot of the guys realize, okay, I can get a reaction out of this silently by actually not having to verbally back up a lot of what I'm trying to say. But so that's me, okay? That's not necessarily
something. As a cheap ploy. Not to call them cheap, but you look at it as an.
Here's what I look at it as. I look at it as if I just try to put myself in that position. Yes, I'm trying to get. I want to be noticed by my my intellectual opponent here, or whoever I'm trying to make the point to. So in that sense, I can relate to them. But I also want to be heard. I also have a lot I want to say, and I feel like they're not necessarily going to listen. It's the same way I feel about flag burning. I feel like, you know, you're going to get a reaction, but are you really going to be listening to what I'm saying after that? Now, so that's me, okay?
Which is true, because the quickest way to have someone shut down in an argument is to insult them. So to start an argument, you know, like they always say, you try to find common grounds. Like, okay, hold on, I want to bring you to my perspective. Look at it this way. You try to actually neutralize people. The reason why I like comedy, when people bring up social issues in a comedic act, I think it actually goes over quite well. Yeah. Because people are more disarmed, they're laughing, they can sit there and go, look, we all have this, you know, in some way give a different angle on it. Yeah, that's Whereas if right off the bat, if I were to have a conversation with someone who's religious and like, all right, look, idiots, this is why I think everybody with a low IQ, like, who the fuck's going to listen to anything that comes out of my mouth? Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. So you taking a knee or insulting or burning a flag or doing anything that way, you're going to lose anybody who's in the middle ground and wants to hear you. They're like, well, I mean, now you've just insulted everybody, and we don't really care what you have to say.
Is it seen as bad as burning a flag? Because that, for me, instantly, I can react to that.
I'd say that's still worse. Yeah. I think in terms of the reaction somebody would give, as much attention as this has gotten, I'd say if one of those guys set a flag on fire, it'd actually be worse.
Okay. It'd be worse, but it's along the same route.
It's along the same vein, okay.
Okay, so now...
You're insulting towards the country.
Yeah.
Now let me say this. We pride ourselves as Americans on talking about our freedoms. It has settled constitutional law that it is legal to burn a flag, and obviously it is legal to take a knee during the national anthem. You can certainly be upset about it, and we can talk about that in a second. But I do believe that if you're going to say people have died for your right to do that, now don't do it. There's some contradiction there. I mean, your first point is absolutely right. People have, but I can't very well say then, how dare you actually make the decision to take advantage of the freedom that somebody fought for? I can argue with you now about your decision to do it, but this whole idea of how could you even consider that? Well, to me, you're kind of contradicting your initial point. Okay. Now, there are a lot of people who are saying, well, I'm going to boycott the NFL now. And you know what? If that's how you feel and this upsets you, you are doing absolutely the right thing.
I agree with that.
In fact, one of our best listeners, Joe Cockrell, who I reference from time to time, just, you know, you've got a serious podcast listener when you know them by their first and last name, and you're like, I feel like I know this, follow his life on Instagram or whatever. He's a good dude. He and I are total political opposites. He's a big right winger, but he took a I assume he's still sticking to his stand. He'll let me know if he is or he isn't. But he was, you know, a couple of weeks ago, he's boycotting the NFL. No more of this. I'm not going to watch this anymore. And, okay, you know, that's a product you're consuming, and you're doing the right thing because you're voting with your dollars, essentially. Now, I will say this, and I did this bit Saturday night on stage. I'm not sure why this is the issue that is pushing people to that conclusion, because let me hit you with a couple of stats. They like the stats in football, you know. Since 2000, NFL players have been arrested almost 900 times, including almost 100 arrests for domestic assaults and 2 murder convictions. But this, now we have really crossed the line of good taste. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get
it. So I would challenge those who have now come to this point with their morality that maybe there would have been a point previously to examine such things with the likes of Ray Rice and Ray Lewis and Michael Vick and the list, Aaron Hernandez, list goes on. But nonetheless, you've come to this point and you've decided to boycott the league. I will tell you, and I have some personal experience with this because of the Michael Vick situation. I said as soon as all of that happened, I would, because at the time, working in radio, I would get booked for appearances with the radio station to go out for some football watching party or something. I lived in Dallas. Dallas Cowboys are very popular. I told sales department, I will never do this again. There would be no more NFL affiliation for me. And that's a tough stand to take because now it's actually impacting people's money. And as much as I made the case for that, I mean, the NFL, I don't have to explain this to you guys, I'm sure, but it's like a de facto religion in this country. I mean, it's kind of the
billions of
it's things like Jerry Sandusky, the pedophile that we had at Penn State. The reason that things like that can happen is because people elevate a product to the level of this de facto religion, almost like what would happen with the Catholic Church, where they were moving the priests around and everything, and it's like you don't want to believe it, so you kind of rationalize it until you talk yourself out of having a problem with it. So a boycott of the NFL to the point that it's going to affect their money is going to be a very, very tough sell. Yeah. I applaud anybody who's standing on principle. I really do. If that's it's a commendable stand that you're taking, and in a way you're having your voice heard, just like
it's actually the best way to have your voice heard.
I agree. No, I absolutely
agree. That's why
Kaepernick
can't get a job.
Yeah. Okay. So now the other thing you mentioned, collusion. That can be a sticky legal issue.
They're going to have to prove that they actually got together.
They are.
Some phone call or email and said, let's fuck this guy.
And I'm not even sure how that would... I know in baseball, because they have an antitrust exemption, collusion is actually illegal. And if they could prove it, they would be in legal trouble. I don't know if that would be the same case for the NFL. We'll kind of see. Let me ask you this, though. Do you agree with the president making it a political issue, with the president weighing, because typically presidents stay away from
you haven't got a typical president.
Well, I know we don't, but normally a president does not weigh in on fire this person should not be employed by this network, I don't like this message, this team should fire this person. For example, Donald Trump was calling NFL owners, asking them to get their players to stand. Jerry Jones alone, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, he called him 4 times.
Personal phone calls.
Now, I will say, as somebody who employs a president one at a time, I kind of don't like my president having enough time to call the owner of the Cowboys 4 times to talk to him about this.
If you think about it, though, especially in this modern era, when things make national level news, such as this has been, our presidents have always kind of weighed in on it. I mean, I remember when George Zimmerman situation happened in Florida. Now, the president doesn't call or probably address every shooting of a teenager in the community.
Trayvon Martin.
But that situation elevated up to national news, so then Obama weighed in on it.
It did, but that was a legal issue. This is not, there's no question of legality here.
Okay, but I'm still saying...
I mean, I think once you're talking to criminality, somebody's been murdered, that sort of thing, and even at that, you got to be careful of it. Even at that, Obama got criticism for that because, and I'll just take this back a few decades further, but, it almost caused a mistrial in Charles Manson's trial because Nixon had said that he believed Charles Manson was guilty. And somebody smuggled a newspaper into Manson with the headline that said Nixon said Manson's guilty. And in the middle of the trial, Charles Manson pulled it out of his jacket and jumped up and showed it to the jury.
Oh, God.
So the jury of course, they're supposed to be sequestered. They see a headline, Nixon says Manson's guilty. And the defense moved for an immediate mistrial because they said the jurors have been poisoned. Now, Manson was crazy, and it didn't cause a mistrial. But you see what I'm saying? It's a very...
Wait a minute. That should have been a mistrial.
Wait, you could make the argument that it should have been.
Jury. It should have been a change. They're not a mistrial. They should have... if that had seen any outside influence.
Mistrial, then you have to retry the guy.
Oh, no, you could make a legal case for that. So you see what I'm saying? It's always been considered.
I never knew that. That's crazy.
I think it's because we have such, and this is something that I'm a believer in, is just a real reverence for...
What year were you born? That's way before your time, too, though, right?
It happened like the year I was born.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm
very old inside.
But the way you talked about it, I'm sitting there going, why am my brain like, no, man, you're only like 8 years older than me. Fucking relax there.
I know old people think. Wait till I bend Brian's ear about Winston Churchill's legacy.
But he told that story like I would have believed that he was sitting on the couch with mom and dad watching. That's what I'm sitting there going,
up. Yeah.
Wait, were you a teenager? No, there's no fucking way.
I know weird shit. But that, so I do believe, though, that, like, but I like that. Like, I like that our law, we have that kind of reverence where someone's on trial, even if it's Charles Manson, and something like that happens, all of a sudden we go, whoa, wait. You know, we
got to deal with this.
What is the integrity here, right? And so in that sense, and I'm not saying, okay, maybe the president doesn't make a comment here or there. I think what's happening with this issue, though, and I'm interested in your thoughts here, is I think this is one of the only issues he can get to roughly 50% approval on. I mean, his base likes this issue.
Oh, I 100% agree.
And so it works, you know, as a talk. And it's also something. It's also something everybody can weigh in on and relate to, and they're already watching, and they've got an opinion.
It's that standard, even that water cooler talk that spreads. And if you can influence that and be on or get 50% or more people on your side with what you're saying, like, oh, the president wants you to stand. If it is causing a fire under people's asses or in their bellies about this issue, then actually it's quite a savvy move to get involved in something like this. He is the king. He's a really good king of PR and perception. He understands where he needs to be and what he needs to be saying. So when you put it like that, and if he can get a good approval rating on what he's saying from that, then he's tagging into that, cashing into it as well. Yeah.
Have you guys? Is there anybody that comes to mind in terms of British politician that, I mean, I know you're not going to have an apples to apples comparison to Trump, but was there anybody that's ever?
Your guy now, right?
We've got a lady now, Theresa
May. But who's the other one?
Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson.
No, he's the mayor of London.
No,
right? Or the mayor of...
he is our foreign secretary now.
Okay, wasn't he mayor before of something?
He's mayor of London. So pull up Boris.
He was mayor of London.
He was mayor of London.
Okay, so I was right about that. Now he's the foreign secretary.
Now he's the foreign. When he said some terrible things, and he's been. But put up Boris Johnson on a zip slide.
Boris Johnson on a zip slide.
He's now, and he is. There he is. Look at him. Images. Look at that. And so this was during the Olympics. He was. He came out and he was supposed to be. This is our Boris Johnson. Here he is. No. And the zip slide got stuck halfway down. So he was just left there waiting.
Is there actual video of this?
There is a video.
Okay, go back to the
videos.
Yeah.
He gets this is the one you can see. This is the news up here. But he is our equivalent. So he's the typical bumbling British. Blah, blah, blah. He went to Eton with David K. Here he comes. He's supposed to be
Union Jack flags.
Here we go. He's flying. Coming in hot. Oh dear, they've not weighed the rope properly because he's slowing down. He's slowing down. Oh, did he make this one? He didn't make this one. He definitely got stuck. Don't do me like this. But this is our mayor. Mayor, and he decided he wanted to zip slide.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, there we go.
This game was very, very well organised. What they do...
He's stuck in the air. I think he's even got his helmet on the wrong way.
Yeah, he does.
But this is now our foreign secretary, so he has somehow worked his way even further into politics, despite...
Now he's just hanging in the air.
He comes up with it, so...
he's...
And all the children are taking pictures of him with their cell phones.
But this is the beauty of England. Okay, so people there, they started throwing stuff at him.
Yeah.
They start taking pictures. They start shouting at him. Do you remember the David Blaine thing where he did it over, stayed in a box over the bridge of Tower Bridge?
Yeah.
All afternoon.
He did it there, and we basically just pelted him with eggs and everything that we had there. So
that's our
standard English response.
That's something I like that you guys do in your parliament, where they have I forget what they call it, but they have the period of time where the prime minister has to stand and basically get shouted at.
Question time.
Question time. That's right. What it is.
Yeah, we have some fun there. That's good.
They just let him have it.
Yeah, they rip into the prime minister or the policies or whatever, and it's so old school. So it's a real old institution.
Yeah.
So that there's lots of yays and nays and woes and cheers and stuff. But Boris Johnson, he is our bumbling idiot, and he is vying. So Theresa May's in trouble at the minute. We've got the whole Brexit thing going on, and Boris Johnson, despite being a terrible foreign secretary, and
he's gaining, right?
He's gaining, yeah. And there's a scary thought that with the way it's going, that Boris Johnson may end up by proxy, just because Theresa May is having such a bad run as Prime Minister.
Well, and then she made an agreement with some of the Irish or something. What happened there?
So the DUP, so Northern Irish. So she didn't have enough votes to actually win our election, but the Northern Irish,
her back,
the
right?
DUP. She the week before the election, they come up and they get to speak, and we get to ask them questions. So they do like they're always vetted, the questions, but.
Yeah.
One of the things that was asked was nurses and fire service people and all the people that do our all that side of our emergency services. They were saying, well, nurses get a maximum cap, 1% increase, 1% pay rise, capped. Absolutely, there's no more that they can get pay increase. Politicians have had a 14% pay rise over the last 16, 18 months, 1% on nurses. So they said, why are you not supporting our nurses, our emergency services? 1%. She said there is not a magic money tree. It gets to the day after the election, the votes are counted. She is 6 votes out of being able to stay as Prime Minister. The DUP, this Democratic Unionist Party, from which has got some interesting background stuff from Northern Ireland, said we've got 6 votes. If you give us 1 billion to fund Northern Ireland and let's do that 1 billion, then we will give you our votes and we will sit alongside you in that. She signed that within 15 minutes. So that magic money tree that wasn't there for the doctors and the nurses and the emergency services was signed within 5 minutes, so she could keep the seat that she never really earned. So,
wow.
That's what's kicking up a lot of fuss, and that's what's causing a lot of problems with her, with Brexit, because she's in charge of Brexit, or her party is, and there's fights within their party to remove her or try and keep her, and they're concentrating on that. And while that's happening, Europe is just taking a big old dick up our ass. So we're having a lot of fun in the UK. I'm looking for American citizenship if anyone wants to remarry me and get me a green card. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, you know what I'm wondering about is, as our Russia investigation plows forward, we're now getting indications that the Russians had bought the Facebook ads and all that, and now it's spilled over to Twitter. I don't know if you saw the story that they had even bought into the advertising on Pokemon Go.
Oh my goodness.
And my question is, could they have gotten as far as Clash of Clans? Because if that's happened,
did you see your little eyes?
Our own podcast may have been infiltrated.
You may have funded. Imagine that. That's, God,
is there any possibility? I've never played Clash of Clans.
I
don't know how that works.
Everything now.
Yeah.
If they went Pokemon, they could definitely go Clash of Clans. Well, there we go.
Here's what we need to do. In case they did, as soon as word breaks that they might have spent some bucks on Clash of Clans, we need to have Frank positioned as the authoritative commentator on the issue. We get you right on CNN to talk about how this works, because most people are not going to understand how that would work.
They need an expert, and this man this man does Clash of Clans in between fights while we're commentating. So I'll be doing the walkout, and I'm looking down, and he's deep in a battle. He is deep in a battle.
You get the...
just 1 second. I need 30 seconds.
I was going to say the other funny thing about Russian money maybe funding politics. We had a fighter called Adam Townsend who fought for ACB back in Sheffield, and he is running for Register of Deeds for his county, and so he fought for ACB, so he got the finish bonus as well, so he got $5,000 for finishing the fight at submission, and his
fund his campaign.
And so he is not, I obviously asked tongue-in-cheek, is he the only American politician to be funded by Russian money?
That's good. Did you say it on the broadcast?
On the broadcast.
Oh, nice.
There we go. And I was waiting. I opened Twitter, thought this could be bad, but no one really. I got a couple of thumbs up, but yeah, that was fun.
All right, that is excellent. All right, we should put a wrap on this one. We got Bryan for a couple more nights, right?
We do. He's not leaving us until Thursday in the middle of the morning.
Okay, so that's going to be at least one more podcast.
3 more gigs.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple of more stand-up
Heart
gigs.
Attack Cafe, more chicken fillet.
You know we're going to go this week,
wings.
man.
Let's do this, mate.
I've never been to the Heart Attack Cafe.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's so embarrassingly American, that thing.
I know, but bro, you don't realize how many people ask me about this when I travel. Like when I meet people overseas and stuff, and they, oh, you're from Vegas, yeah. Like, hey, the Heart Attack Grill. I'm like, holy shit, this thing's like internationally famous.
I will tell you.
And here's the thing, I've never been there, so I'm like.
It's the thing when you said where you've bumped in. Even Travis, you asked where should I take me for some food or what should we try? Because that's what I love to do. I love to eat the American food, chicken wings all day long.
Yeah, we're gonna take them to a Wingstop or a Buffalo Bill. Wingstop probably. Jennifer keeps saying Buffalo Bill. I say Wingstop.
Okay.
I will tell you about that Heart Attack
Grill.
Grill.
One on that one.
Yeah, there's a good place right up there on 215 in Decatur.
I'm going with we're going with Travis now. It's
called Wing Nuts. It's right there in the
By the way,
Costco in the corner.
Is it? You been to the Wingstop like the one they have over here at the Santa Fe? Like
Yeah, it's all right.
Oh, it's all right. All right, cool.
By the way, Yard House serves vegan chicken wings. I'm just mentioning it.
If you want to come with us,
if you have a vegan place you want us to bring him, man, let's go.
Equal time.
I think that we have to, if we're gonna knock his socks off, because you've bring me some vegan places here in Vegas and nothing that I'll return to. But Doomy's in LA, man.
Yeah.
If Doomy's was next door, I'd be a vegan.
Yeah,
that's nice.
That Heart Attack Grill though, we not very long ago. It's down in the Fremont area, kind of the seedier part of Vegas and everything. The downtown. Jennifer and I, not very long ago, walked by that place, and we're the big plate glass windows, and we're looking in, and the people, these just morbidly obese people that are sitting there, they actually, this is no kidding, Brian, they dress them in hospital gowns.
Oh, you're kidding. Did
I tell you that somebody else is...
No, nothing green. That's what I got told. They don't sell anything.
There was a woman sitting on the plane from Canada that I was sitting with. She's like, oh, I heard that, I'm like, yeah. And she asked me, Heart Attack Grill. I'm like, really? You're coming here from Montreal? And that's what, okay. And then I was like, yeah, but I think if you, and tell me if this is true. If you do that, they weigh you, right? Over 350 pounds, you get to order a free meal, but you have to wear a patient's gown.
I saw half a dozen people sitting in there in those hospital gowns, and we're standing there just dumbstruck, looking in the window. I looked over at Jennifer and I said, "That's why they hate us.
That's why.
That's why. Right there.
That's why we love you as well. I got to be honest. It's when I came here. The food. So we got to do a little food run.
I do got two suggestions. If you guys are going to go down there, two of our favorite places to eat are down there. If you guys like Thai food, a little place called Le Thai. It's right there on Fremont Street, and then the next street over is Pizza Rock. Really cool place.
Oh, I never heard of Pizza Rock.
It's amazing.
Is it 2 stories?
Nope.
Oh,
it's right next to Hogs and Heifers. It's connected.
Next to Hogs and Heifers. We're spending the day down
there, man. No, it's the Harley bar that's down there.
One other question. If I can, let me call back to the very beginning of the podcast when we found out that Brian is a fraidy cat for the haunted houses. If we can string this together, we have had a place open here in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's why you do what you do.
The Haunted Museum.
Oh,
it's owned by Zach Baggins, who is the host of Ghost Adventures. I don't know if you've ever seen that on. It's a big show over here.
Yeah.
And he is a Twitter follower of Frank's.
Okay.
And so there's been some back and forth between them on Twitter about getting a private tour of this museum.
Okay.
In this museum, he has, among other things, the Volkswagen bus that Jack Kevorkian killed all his assisted suicide people in.
God.
The cauldron that was in Ed Gein's barn.
Okay.
You know
No
Ed Gein?
shit.
Yeah.
Ed Gein here he was the guy that they loosely, different characters. He cuts
Hannibal Lecter.
Right. He does. He did the when he killed the women. He actually did make a mask and shit out of their clothing.
And you know that movie, The Babadook?
The Babadook.
Yeah. He has the actual Babadook. He bought the thing. This because it's based on a real thing. It's purported to be the world's most haunted object. He bought it. And it's in a room, and you have to sign a waiver before you go into...
I'm sick of signing waivers in this country. That'll be my second one this week.
You had to sign a waiver to go into one of the haunted houses.
Oh, did you? Okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, we've been trying to work out this tour, and it is now open. So if we could get that done one of these nights, Brian, do you think you could? What do you think?
We got to hurry. We only got Tuesday.
Yeah,
yeah, we could try. But I sat at breakfast today, and I was like, I say breakfast, lunch.
Yeah,
and I was was like, anyone else have nightmares last night?
Perfect.
Just
Okay.
me. Just
this
me.
this may be the deal then. All right, we'll hit Zach up when we get off the air. All right, tell everybody how they can follow you on social media.
So
Brian,
social
your
media,
comedy and all
yeah.
that.
So social. I'll just do the
Yep.
one thing. It's social media at Bryan Lacey, Bryan with a Y, MMA on Instagram and Twitter, and then just Bryan Lacey on Facebook. So catch us there. 2 podcasts: the One Punch podcast with the legend Mr. Brad Pickett. So we talk fighting, but he's hilarious. He's just. Yeah, he's one of the he's like full of dad jokes, full of stupidness, and just a lot of fun. And I do Ultimate Couch Fans with another comedian, radio host in the UK, which is all fighting. We just talk about we just talk about UFC, MMA, anything in and around combat sports, boxing, kickboxing, karate, whatever.
I got to check that. I subscribe to One Punch, but I've got to get in on the other one.
I'm going to fill your phone, mate. That's what I'm going to do.
Yes,
That's right.
Good. Frank, tell them how they can follow the show on social media.
Facebook and Instagram. You can follow us at Phone Booth Fighting. If you're on Snapchat or Twitter, it's just Phone Booth Fight.
Do us one favor, won't you? And this won't cost you a thing. If you do one thing and one thing only for us, it's tell a friend. Tell a friend about the podcast. That helps us grow this thing, and that's how we're going to build it one listener at a time. And we really appreciate you guys who are leaving those iTunes reviews.
We're going to have to read a few off on the next one.
We do. We're overdue.
Yes,
So
well overdue.
next episode, we'll read some iTunes reviews. You guys that look up Phone Booth Fighting in iTunes, click on the 5 stars. Take a moment to write a favorable line or two. We like to read those on the air.
Can we just say as well, we're in Brazil this weekend for ACB, so if you want to check that out, Saturday night there's some amazing fights. We were in Canada last week, and the card there's some visa issues, so they've moved a lot of the Russian fighters to this Brazilian card. So we've got people like Adlan Bataev, who fought for the featherweight title last time, Buscape, so what's his name? Andreas Silva takes on Islam Mokaev in the main event, which is a great fight, and there's Beslan Isaev as well as a few others. So we'll be in Brazil if you want to watch that. That's free on ACB's Facebook page, AC Berkut, or on Fight TV app.
Yeah, Fight TV app, because I watch it both ways, but that Fight TV app works really well.
It's
I just
nice,
got that
smooth,
app on
and
my
there's
phone.
comments you can join in with, all that sort of stuff. But check it out because we're making another trip, so that'll be fun.
All right. Travis back with us in the bunker. Follow him on Twitter at Scuba T Diving, T for Travis. Good to have him on the controls again. For Bryan Lacey and for Frank Mir, Richard Hunter, and we'll see you right back here next time on Phone Booth Fighting.